If you're complaining about me protecting my family, then leave this house. Do you even know this house belongs to my dad? If anyone is leaving, it's you. If your sister is so important to you, why don't you rent a place and live with her and her kid? I bet you're too lazy to pay for everything for all three of you. Shut up, don't make fun of me like that. My husband slapped me across the face. That's what happens when you don't listen to me. If you don't want it to happen again, do what I say. My name is Kate. I'm 34 years old and work in an office. I live with my husband, Corey, and our 6-year-old daughter, Michelle, in a small apartment that's perfect for our family. But recently, a problem started when someone moved in unexpectedly. That someone is my sister-in-law, Judy, out of nowhere. She showed up at our house with her 3-year-old daughter. She says her husband is abusive and that she's scared for herself and her daughter. According to her, he gets violent sometimes, so she left and came to stay with us. Her parents live in the countryside, and she didn't want to move there because her daughter just started kindergarten. Corey heard her story and invited her to stay with us without asking any questions. At first, I agreed to let her stay for a while. I thought it would be okay. But after a month, I started to question if Judy was telling the truth. She hasn't done anything to move forward, no sign of getting a divorce or finding a new place to live. She's been here a month now, and I'm starting to think she should be doing something by now. I haven't heard anything about her husband contacting her either. When I ask Corey, he just says, it's a private matter with Judy. I'm the one handling most of the household expenses, not Corey, so I need to know how long Judy plans to stay with us. To be honest, I want her to leave as soon as possible. If Corey won't do anything about it, I'll have to talk to Judy myself. Judy, when are you getting a divorce? Have you hired a lawyer? Have you found a place to live? But when I ask her these questions, she acts weak and says, I'm not ready for all that yet. She eats so much of the food I cook, and sometimes she leaves her daughter with me while she goes out. She comes home smelling like alcohol. When I tell Corey about it, he just says, she's been through a lot with her husband, let her be, and does nothing. I didn't know this before, but it seems like Corey is really attached to his sister. He spoils her, and she takes advantage of it. That's why she doesn't listen to me. Recently, it feels like she's getting too comfortable in our home. She's always sitting on the couch. She's there before I leave for work, and when I come back, she's still there. She doesn't help with anything around the house, leaves the air conditioner running all day, and uses our food for her own meals without asking. One time, I came home to find the groceries I bought for dinner were gone. I had to go back to the store to buy more. This has been happening for 2 months now, and I really can't take it anymore. Can you please talk to her like an older brother? I can't take it anymore. One day, I asked Corey to talk to his sister and tell her to get it together. What? You're going to treat my sister like that? She's my family. How can you say that? I've let her stay here for 2 months, even though she hasn't done anything. Isn't that enough? 2 months is more than enough time to get divorced and sort things out, but she's still here, doing nothing. She only leaves the house at night to go out. This was supposed to be a time to rest and recover, but it's over now. It's time for her to move on. Corey snapped at me. Shut up. You know what my sister has been through. You cold-hearted person. I didn't know you could be so cruel. I refused to back down. Okay, then, you help me with the housework. Huh? Help me with the housework. We both work, so why am I the only one doing everything around here and taking care of Michelle? If you care so much about your sister, then help out at home too. At least take Michelle to kindergarten. You've never done that. Even though you know I'm busy, you're not having a tough time like Judy, so you should be able to do this. Corey didn't know how to respond. He couldn't say anything because I was right. Finally, he said, well, that's what a wife is supposed to do. Huh? What's that? Are you treating me like this? You say you're upset about Judy's husband treating her badly, but it's okay for you to treat me this way? That's not what I meant. Can you at least drive Michelle from now on? Fine, fine. The issue with my sister-in-law wasn't solved, but at least I was happy that Corey was going to help with our daughter. But it didn't make things easier as much as I thought. Michelle has ballet class, and I'm still the one who has to drive her there. She goes every Saturday, and Corey says he has to stay home with Judy and her daughter, Amy, because he's worried about them. I never expected him to drive Michelle on Saturdays, but the problem is, the house is always a mess when I come back, and I have to clean up after everyone. When I asked Corey if he could at least keep the house clean, he said, I'm tired from all the driving. I need to rest on Saturdays. When I asked Judy to help with the housework, Corey said she didn't need to, so She just sits around doing nothing, acting like a princess. Corey seems to care more about Amy, his niece, than his own daughter. I'm worried because Michelle always seems so sad. One time, I asked her, "What do you talk about when he picks you up?" She said, "We don't talk. He never says anything." I was shocked. I had no idea he didn't even talk to his own daughter. Hearing this made me really angry at Corey. He talks so much to Amy that it probably annoys her, but he won't say a word to Michelle. My life has become so stressful and draining since Judy came. If she's going to stay any longer, I'll have to do something for my own sake, and that time comes sooner than I expect, while I'm in the bath, trying to relax from all the stress. I'm startled when I suddenly hear Corey shouting. I quickly throw on my clothes and rush into the living room. "Michelle, do you know what you just did?" "Huh?" When I get there, I see my daughter shaking with fear, tears streaming down her face. Corey is red with anger. No matter how many times Michelle apologizes, he yells, "You're a disgusting child, we need to beat that horrible attitude out of you," and doesn't listen to her at all. "Hey, calm down, think about what you're saying to her." I step in between Corey and Michelle to protect her. "Tell me what happened. I'll decide if you should scold her or not once I know." Michelle pushed Amy. She shoved her to the floor. "What? How could she push my sister's daughter? I didn't raise her like this. I can't believe my sweet daughter would push anyone like that." But when I look at Judy and Amy, I see Judy hugging and comforting Amy, crying. "That was awful what she did. You need to punish her, Corey," Judy says, glaring at Michelle and pushing Corey even more. Wait a second, maybe Michelle did push Amy, but why? She wouldn't just do that without a reason. Corey answers, "Amy wanted to read the book Michelle was reading, and then she pushed her." That's his explanation. Something doesn't feel right to me. "Michelle, I won't be mad. Can you tell me the truth? Did Amy pull the book away from you?" I ask gently, and she nods. "Maybe you were just trying to hold on to it, and then Amy slipped and fell." "Michelle?" I ask again. She nods repeatedly. I turn to Corey. "That's not what you told me." Michelle was just shocked by the sudden pull and tried to protect herself. "She didn't push Amy." "Shut up. That doesn't change that she hurt my niece." "What? Are you saying your niece is more important than our daughter?" "Of course she is. My family is the most important thing to me, so my sister's child is precious too. If you're complaining about me protecting my family, then leave this house." I'm disgusted. This man has completely lost it. No matter how hard I try, we'll never see eye to eye. "You do know this house belongs to my father, right?" Corey looks surprised. Judy looks upset. "What do you mean?" she asks. "So, if anyone is leaving, it's you. If your sister is so important to you, why don't you rent a place and live with her and her kid? You'll be happy, right, since you love your sister so much? But I'm not sure if your salary can cover expenses for the three of you." Corey's furious. "Shut up, don't make fun of me." He slaps me across the cheek. I feel a sharp pain on my cheek, and I'm sure it's turning red. That's what happens when you don't listen to me. If you don't want it to happen again, do what I say. I rub my cheek and say, "Fine, I'll do what you say," and leave. I pack my things, take Michelle's hand, and head to my parents' house. My parents are furious when I tell them what happened. "Divorce him, that's the only choice, and I'm going to make them leave that apartment," says my dad, who owns the apartment. But I know Corey won't leave the house easily, so I start doing some research to prepare myself. I contact my in-laws to get more information about Judy's husband. I thought they might know something about him, but they say they haven't heard from Judy. According to them, Judy and her husband are doing fine. I start getting more suspicious of Judy's story, but I've only met her husband, Stan, briefly, and I don't have his contact info. My in-laws only contacted him through Judy, so they don't know how to reach him either. "I heard he works at a company called So-and-so. Why don't you try contacting them?" they suggest. So, I go to the company where Stan works. I vaguely remember his face, so I figure I'll recognize him. I wait near the end of the workday and find him. When I call out to him, Stan looks startled. He quickly asks, "Do you know where Judy is right now?" For a moment, I wonder if Judy really was suffering, but it seems that's not the case. We head to a coffee shop so I can hear his side of the story. Apparently, Judy was the one causing the trouble. "Does Corey know about this?" I ask. "Well, it doesn't matter," Stan says. "I just want to help." So, with Stan and my parents, we head back to my house to confront Corey and Judy. When Judy sees Stan, she's shocked. How did you find me? Judy, you know you owe me compensation, right? Stan says. It turns out Judy's story was a lie. She was having an affair, and Stan had already divorced her. Judy ran to our house because she didn't want to pay him. Stan couldn't reach Judy's parents because he didn't know how, and he was too busy at work to go to the countryside. He was ready to give up, but he managed to track her down through me. Are you still going to take your sister's side? I asked Corey. Of course, if she's cheating on him, it's his fault, he replies. Unbelievable. I'm done with Corey. I'm divorcing you, and I want you out of here. You're trespassing on my father's property. I've got medical records and a damage report for the slap you gave me. I'm filing a lawsuit for injury. Corey panics. Wait, you're joking, right? I'm serious. I'm done. We can talk, but I'm leaving. Corey begs, but I'm not changing my mind. Judy begs Stan to forgive her, claiming she has no money to pay him, but neither of us forgives them. I don't withdraw the report, and Corey gets arrested and fined. I also file for divorce and child support through my lawyer. Corey ends up with a huge debt. Judy has nowhere to go and has to pay Stan back. Her parents find out and disown her. Judy is sent back to their farm, where she works to pay off the compensation. Most of Corey's salary goes to paying his debt, and he's living in poor conditions now. As for me, I moved to an apartment near my parents' house so Corey can't show up unexpectedly. I'm living peacefully with my daughter. She's in elementary school now, has new friends, and is much happier. I'm focused on raising my precious daughter. Corey loved his sister too much and hurt his wife. What kind of husband does that? I don't know how these siblings turned out this way, especially with decent parents. At least Kate and Michelle are finally living peacefully. I hope they continue to live happily together. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed this video, and see you next time.
I never expected a simple piece of paper to shatter my carefully constructed peace. But there it was, pinned to my front door with a black thumbtack, stark white against the dark wood, fluttering slightly in the autumn breeze. This isn't over, it read in messy block letters. 3 words that sent ice through my veins and brought my past rushing back like a tidal wave. My name is Lila, and until today I thought I'd finally built the quiet life I'd always dreamed of. A cozy craftsman house in a peaceful neighborhood, a loving partner, and a job at the local library where the biggest drama usually involved overdue books. But that note changed everything. I stood there, keys dangling forgotten in my hand, staring at those 3 words until they burned into my memory. The street behind me was quiet, almost too quiet. Mrs. Peterson's wind chimes next door tinkled softly, and somewhere down the block, a dog barked. Normal sounds that suddenly felt ominous. My phone buzzed, making me jump. It was Ethan, my partner. Hey babe, grabbing takeout from Ming's. Want your usual? I tried to keep my voice steady. Yeah, that sounds good. I paused, debating whether to tell him about the note. How long until you're home? 20 minutes, tops. Everything okay? You sound weird. Just tired, I lied, hating myself for it. See you soon. I pulled the thumbtack out and brought the note inside, laying it on our kitchen counter. The paper was cheap, the kind you'd find in any office supply store. Nothing distinctive about it except for those threatening words and what they represented. My hands shook as I poured myself a glass of water. I knew exactly who had left this message. Ryan, Ethan's younger brother, had been acting strange ever since we inherited this house from Ethan's grandmother 6 months ago. He'd made snide comments about how unfair it was, how he and his wife Vanessa deserved it more. But I never thought he'd escalate things like this. The last family dinner replayed in my mind. Ryan's cold stare across the table, Vanessa's sugary sweet voice asking pointed questions about our renovation plans. It must be nice, she'd said, twirling her wine glass. Having such a beautiful home just given to you. I'd spent years learning to control my reactions, to stay calm in the face of provocation. My past as a martial arts champion taught me that much, at least. But standing in my kitchen, staring at that note, I felt my carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. The sound of a car door slamming made me quickly shove the note into a drawer. Ethan walked in moments later, carrying bags of Chinese food and wearing his usual easy smile. "Got you extra spring rolls," he said, setting everything down and pulling me into a hug. I melted into his embrace, breathing in his familiar scent of coffee and cologne. Should I tell him? Would he believe me over his own brother? Questions churned in my stomach, souring my appetite. "You sure you're okay?" Ethan pulled back, studying my face with concern. "You look pale." The words caught in my throat as headlights swept across our front windows. Car was driving by slowly, too slowly. Through the curtains, I caught a glimpse of Ryan's black SUV. "Actually," I said, making a decision, "there's something we need to talk about." But before I could continue, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Hope you enjoyed my little message." There's more where that came from. The peaceful life I'd built was unraveling, and I had a choice to make. I could stay quiet and hope this would blow over, or I could fight back. As I looked at Ethan's worried face, I realized there really wasn't a choice at all. I'd fought too hard for this life to let anyone take it from me, even if that someone was family. I showed Ethan the note over our cooling Chinese food. His face darkened as he read it, then read it again. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. "You think Ryan did this?" He finally looked up, his expression a mix of doubt and worry that made my stomach clench. "Who else would it be?" I pushed my untouched spring rolls around with my chopsticks. "You saw how he acted at the reading of the will. How he's been acting ever since." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit I'd grown to recognize. "Ryan can be difficult but threatening notes? That's not his style." "Then whose style is it?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "Because someone clearly has a problem with us being in this house. Maybe we should." Ethan was cut off by the sound of tires on gravel. Through our dining room window, I watched Ryan's black SUV pull into our driveway. Again. "Perfect timing," I muttered, standing up. But Ethan caught my wrist. "Let me handle this," he said softly. "He's my brother." That's exactly the problem, I wanted to say. Instead, I nodded and followed him to the door. Ryan and Vanessa stood on our porch like they owned it. Vanessa wore her usual perfectly coordinated outfit and artificial smile, while Ryan lounged against the railing with forced casualness. "Hope we're not interrupting dinner," Vanessa chirped, peering past us into the house. "We were just driving by and thought we'd stop in. For the second time today." "Actually, we were in the middle of something," I started, but Ethan was already stepping aside to let them in. "No problem," he said. "Come on in." I watched them walk into my home, our home, and felt my martial arts training kick in automatically. Analyzing positions, watching movements, staying aware of exits. "Old hobbits die hard." "Love what you've done with Grandma's china cabinet," Vanessa said, running her finger along the antique wood. "Though it's such a shame to change anything. This house has so much history." The way she emphasized that last word made my skin crawl. "What brings you by?" I asked directly, ignoring Ethan's warning glance. Ryan sprawled on our couch, his boots on our coffee table. "Can a guy visit his big brother?" Besides, Vanessa and I have been talking about the neighborhood. Thinking about maybe moving closer. Closer? The word stuck in my throat. Vanessa nodded, still wandering the room like a realtor sizing up a property. "This street has such potential. The right people could really make something of these old houses." I caught the emphasis on right people and felt my hands curl into fists. Ethan must have noticed because he quickly jumped in. "That's great, but maybe we could discuss this another time?" Lila and I were actually in the middle of an important conversation. "Oh." Ryan's eyes locked onto mine. "Anything interesting?" The note burned in my pocket where I'd stuffed it earlier. I met his stare, remembering years of competition, of knowing exactly when someone was testing my defenses. "Just house stuff," I said evenly. "Speaking of which, how's that fixer-upper you bought last year coming along?" Vanessa's smile flickered. Their investment property had turned into a money pit, and everyone knew it. "It's progressing," she said tightly. "Though some people just have all the luck, don't they? Getting a move-in ready house just handed to them." Tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. Ethan shifted uncomfortably between us, torn between family loyalty and defending our home. "Nothing was handed to us," I said quietly. "Grandma Carter made her choice." "Did she?" Ryan stood suddenly. "Or did someone help her make it?" "Ryan," Ethan warned, but his brother was already heading for the door, Vanessa close behind. "Thanks for the lovely visit," she called over her shoulder. "We should do this more often. After all, we're family." After they left, Ethan and I stood in silence, listening to their car pull away. Chinese food was completely cold now, forgotten on the kitchen counter. "Still think Ryan didn't write that note?" I asked. Ethan didn't answer, and somehow that hurt more than any threat could. The next morning at the library, I found another note tucked inside the book I'd been reading during my lunch break. "You don't belong here." Never did. The handwriting matched the first note perfectly. My hands trembled as I stared at the words. Someone had been watching me, waiting for the right moment. Quiet sanctuary of my workplace suddenly felt exposed, vulnerable. "Earth to Lila." Mia's voice made me jump. She peered over my shoulder, her usual cheerful expression falling as she caught sight of the note. "What's that?" I quickly folded the paper and shoved it into my pocket. "Nothing. Just. Don't you dare say nothing." Mia pulled me into the biography section, away from prying eyes. "You've been jumpy all morning, and now this? Talk to me." Before I could respond, the sharp click of heels on hardwood announced Vanessa's arrival. She rounded the corner like she owned the place, designer purse swinging from her arm. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. The librarians having their little chat. "We're working," I said flatly, turning away. "Oh, I'm sure you are." Vanessa's voice dropped lower. "Working on how to keep that house, right? Must be exhausting, always looking over your shoulder." My spine stiffened. Mia stepped closer to me, protective. "Is there something we can help you find, Vanessa?" Mia asked pointedly. "Actually, yes." Vanessa pulled out a thick folder. "I've been researching property laws. Fascinating stuff. Did you know there are all sorts of ways a will can be questioned?" The threat hung in the air between us. I thought of Grandma Carter's final months. How she'd insisted I move in to help care for her while Ryan and Vanessa were too busy with their investment opportunities. "The will was perfectly legal," I said quietly. "Everything was witnessed and notarized." "Legal doesn't always mean right." Vanessa leafed through her folder. "For instance, when an elderly woman suddenly changes her will after her grandson's girlfriend moves in. Well, people might wonder about undue influence." My chest tightened. "Is that what you're telling people?" "I'm not telling anyone anything." Her smile turned predatory. "Yet?" "That's enough." Mia's voice was sharp. "This is a library, not a courthouse. Take your threats somewhere else." Vanessa's facade cracked for just a moment, revealing something desperate underneath. "You think you've won, don't you? Playing the perfect caretaker, the devoted granddaughter-in-law? Some of us had to work for everything we have. Like that falling apart house you can't afford to fix?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. Vanessa slammed the folder down on a nearby table, making several patrons jump. "You have no idea what it's like, watching everything handed to you while we struggle. That house should have been split equally. Ryan is family. You're just convenient." The old me would have responded differently. Would have shown her exactly how convenient I could be. Instead, I took a slow, steady breath. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. "Or what?" She stepped closer. "You'll call security? Have me banned from the public library?" That would make a great story for the neighborhood gossips. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Ethan wondering why I wasn't answering his texts. But I couldn't look away from Vanessa's challenge. You want the truth? Ich kept my voice low. Grandma Carter left us the house because she knew what you and Ryan would do with it. Flip it for quick cash like every other property you've ruined. She wanted it preserved, not destroyed. Color flooded Vanessa's cheeks. For a moment, I thought she might actually strike me. Instead, she gathered her folder with shaking hands. This isn't over, she hissed, the exact words from the first note. After she stormed out, Mia grabbed my arm. Okay, spill. What's really going on? I pulled out both notes, watching my friend's eyes widen as she read them. Have you told Ethan? He doesn't want to believe his brother could do this. I leaned against the shelves, suddenly exhausted. And maybe he's right. Maybe I'm paranoid. Or maybe, Mia said slowly, you need to stop playing nice and start playing smart. She was right. I'd been trying so hard to leave my past behind, to be the perfect partner and librarian, that I'd forgotten something crucial. Sometimes peace comes at a price. And I knew exactly how to make them pay it. After the confrontation at the library, I spent hours researching Ryan and Vanessa's failed property ventures. Public records told a story of mounting debt and desperate refinancing. But it was a social media notification that made my blood run cold. Someone had tagged Vanessa in photos from my old competition days. They knew. I stared at the images of my younger self on the martial arts circuit, trophies in hand, victory written across my face. The life I'd walked away from was now ammunition in their hands. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Nice roundhouse kick. Shame about that career-ending injury. Or was it? The walls of our cozy living room suddenly felt like they were closing in. I hadn't told Ethan everything about my past, about why I'd really left competitive fighting. Some secrets were better left buried. The front door opened and I quickly closed the browser. Ethan walked in, looking troubled. Ryan called, he said, dropping his keys on the counter. He wants to meet. Says he has information about the house that might interest us. What kind of information? He wouldn't say. Just that it's important. Ethan wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe we should hear him out. Like we've heard him out about his last investment opportunity? I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. The one that cost you $5,000? That was different. But his shoulders sagged. He's still my brother, Lila. Before I could respond, another text came through. Ask Ethan about the original will. The one from before you moved in. My heart stopped. Ethan, I said carefully, was there another will? His silence was answer enough. Why didn't you tell me? Because it doesn't matter. He finally looked at me. Grandma changed it legally. She wanted you to have this place. But originally it was supposed to go to Ryan, wasn't it? A knock at the door saved him from answering. Through the window, I saw a familiar face I hadn't seen in years. Jax Reynolds, my old training partner. Expecting someone? Ethan asked. I shook my head, moving to open the door. Jax stood there, looking more polished than I remembered in a business suit, but with the same calculating eyes. Long time no see, champ, he said easily. Mind the ficomin. Then tensed beside me. Who's this? An old friend, I said, though friend wasn't exactly the right word. What are you doing here, Jax? He stepped inside, taking in our home with an appraising look. Heard you might need some help. Ryan Carter's been asking questions about you around town. Interesting questions. My stomach dropped. What kind of questions? The kind that make me think he's digging for dirt. Jax's smile was sharp. Good thing I know where all the bodies are buried, right? Then moved closer to me. Is that a threat? Actually, Jax pulled out his business card, Community Development Director. It's an offer of help. Ryan's been trying to push through some questionable permits for his properties. It would be a shame if someone looked too closely at those applications. I studied my old teammate, trying to read his angle. Why would you help me? Let's just say I owe you one. His eyes flickered to my left knee, the injury that ended everything. And I don't like bullies. Another text buzzed in my pocket. Time's running out. Meet tonight or the truth comes out. I looked between Ethan's worried face and Jax's knowing smirk. The past and present were colliding, and I had to choose, keep playing defense or finally strike back. Tell me about those permits, I said to Jax. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. An offense? That was something I knew very well. Lila, Ethan started, but I held up my hand. No more secrets, I said firmly. From any of us. It's time to end this. The weight of my past pressed against my chest, but for the first time since finding that first note, I felt steady. Ready. Let them come. I wasn't looking for a fight when I went for my evening run, but there was Ryan, leaning against my car in the library parking lot after closing. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the empty lot. Perfect timing for an ambush. Thought you'd want these back, he said, holding up a stack of photographs. Even from several feet away, I recognized them, shots from my competition days, including one from my last match. The one that ended everything. Where did you get those? I kept my voice steady, though my heart raced. Amazing what you can find online. He flipped through them casually. You were quite the champion. Until that unfortunate accident. His smile turned cruel. Or should I say arrangement? My hands curled into fists. What do you want, Ryan? Detrut. He pushed off my car, moving closer. About how you manipulated my grandmother. About the real reason you quit fighting. About everything. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? He pulled out his phone. Because I have some interesting messages here from your old sponsor. He remembers that night very clearly. The memory flashed unbidden, the pressure to throw the fight, the threats, the choice I made that cost me everything. Everything except my integrity. Is that what this is about? I stepped forward. You're trying to blackmail me? I prefer to think of it as negotiation. Ryan's confidence wavered slightly as I moved closer. The house for your secrets. Simple trade. Nothing's ever simple with you. I was close enough now to see the sweat on his forehead. Does Ethan know you're here? Ethan needs to understand what kind of person you really are. That's when I saw Vanessa in her SUV, phone raised, recording everything. Of course, they wanted me to snap to prove I was still violent, still dangerous. But I wasn't that person anymore. Or at least I thought I wasn't. Last chance, Ryan said, dropping the photos at my feet. Sign over the house or everyone learns the truth. I looked at the scattered photos, at my younger self frozen in moments of victory. Then I looked at Ryan, really looked at him, the desperate gleam in his eyes, the slight tremor in his hands. He was terrified. You want the truth? Kept my voice low, controlled. Here it is. I didn't manipulate your grandmother. She saw through you both long before I came along. She knew about the gambling debts, the failed schemes, the money you borrowed from her savings. Ryan's face paled. That's a lie. Is it? Should we ask Jax about those permit applications? The ones with forged signatures? He lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You don't know anything. Years of training kicked in automatically. One fluid movement and Ryan was on the ground, my knee pressed firmly between his shoulder blades. I heard Vanessa scream, car doors slamming. I know everything, I said quietly, holding him down with minimal effort. Every debt, every scheme, every lie. Your grandmother knew too. That's why she changed her will. Let him go. Vanessa was running towards us, phone still recording. You're proving everything we said about you. I released Ryan and stepped back, keeping my stance ready. He scrambled up, face red with rage and humiliation. You're done, he spat. When Ethan sees this. When I see what? We all turned. Ethan stood at the edge of the lot, expression unreadable. Behind him was Jax, holding a thick folder. Perfect timing, Jax said, smiling. I was just coming to discuss those permit applications with Ryan. And look, we have witnesses. Color drained from Ryan's face. Vanessa's phone lowered slowly. Ethan, Ryan started, but his brother held up a hand. I saw everything, he said quietly. And I heard everything. He moved to stand beside me, his hand finding mine. It's over, Ryan. All of it. Choice I'd made years ago to walk away rather than compromise my principles had cost me a career. But standing there, feeling Ethan's support, seeing Ryan and Vanessa's schemes crumbling, I knew I'd make the same choice again. Sometimes the biggest victories come from knowing when not to fight. But sometimes you have to show them exactly what you're capable of. Carter family gathering felt more like a powder keg waiting to explode. I watched from our kitchen as relatives filled the backyard, their cheerful conversations masking the tension underneath. Ethan squeezed my hand, a silent reminder that we had a plan. But plans have a way of falling apart. Ready? He asked, checking his phone where Jax's message waited. Documents in hand. On my way. I nodded, though my stomach churned. After the parking lot incident, Ryan and Vanessa had gone suspiciously quiet. Too quiet. Well, isn't this cozy? Vanessa's voice cut through the crowd as she and Ryan approached. She carried a thick manila envelope that made my skin crawl. Family all together, just like old times. Ryan wouldn't meet our eyes, but something in his stance set off warning bells in my head. He looked satisfied, like someone who knew they'd already won. Before everyone sits down, Vanessa announced loudly, we have something to share. She pulled documents from her envelope. Some interesting information about dear Lila's past. The chatter died down. I felt dozens of eyes turn toward me. Vanessa, Ethan started, but she spoke over him. Did you know your sweet librarian was involved in illegal betting? That she took money to throw fights? She smiled coldly. We have proof. My chest tightened. That's not. And that's not all, Ryan finally spoke, his voice carrying across the yard. We found something else. About Grandma's last days. Ethan stiffened beside me. This wasn't part of the plan. Turns out, Ryan continued, there were some interesting withdrawals from her accounts. Large ones. Right around the time Lila moved in to help care for her. The accusations hung in the air like poison. I saw doubt creep into the relatives' faces, heard their whispers. Show them the rest, Vanessa urged her husband, pulling out more papers. About how she manipulated. Stop. Ethan's voice cut through the tension. Just stop. Why? Ryan challenged. Afraid of the truth? About how your girlfriend stole what should have been mine. I waited for Ethan to defend me, to reveal what we knew about Ryan's schemes. Instead, he hesitated just for a moment. But that moment was enough. Ethan, I whispered. He looked between me and his brother, torn. I need to see those documents. The ground seemed to shift under my feet. After everything, after the parking lot, after all our planning, he still doubted me? You don't need to see anything, I said quietly. You just need to trust me. But he was already reaching for the papers Vanessa held out triumphantly. The same papers we'd planned to expose as forgeries when Jax arrived. My phone buzzed. Accident on May. Delayed 20 minutes. Hold them off. Too late. Oh my, Vanessa gasped theatrically as she read over Ethan's shoulder. These bank records. Lila, how could you? The documents were lies. I knew they were lies. But watching Ethan's face change as he read them, seeing the doubt creep in despite everything we'd been through. I can explain, I started, but the words felt hollow. How do you explain away carefully crafted lies when the truth sounds just as unbelievable? Ryan moved closer, his voice low enough that only I could hear. You should have taken the deal. Now you lose everything. I looked around at the judging faces, at Ethan still reading those poison papers, at the home I'd fought so hard to protect. Everything I'd built, everything I'd changed about myself, crumbling because of carefully constructed lies. I trusted you, Ethan finally said, his voice breaking. After everything with Ryan, I chose you. You still can, I whispered. Just wait. For what? Ryan interrupted. More lies? More manipulation? Crowd had grown silent, watching the drama unfold. I saw phones recording, faces I'd grown to love now twisted with suspicion and judgment. In that moment, I realized something terrible. Sometimes the truth doesn't matter. Sometimes the story people want to believe is stronger than reality. I turned and walked away, leaving behind the whispers, the accusations, and the man I loved still holding papers that told lies about me. Sometimes walking away isn't surrender, it's survival. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because while they were all focused on destroying my reputation, they'd forgotten something crucial. I hadn't survived this long by playing nice. I was halfway to my car when Jax's voice cut through the murmur of the gathering. Those are interesting documents you've got there, Ryan. Mind if I take a look? Crowd parted as Jax strode through, briefcase in hand, looking more like a prosecutor than a community development director. I turned back, watching Ryan's confident smirk falter. This is a private family matter, Vanessa said quickly, trying to gather the papers. Oh, I think it's very public. Jax opened his briefcase. Especially considering these forged permit applications with Ryan's signature. And these bank records showing mysterious deposits right after Grandma Carter's jewelry went missing. The whispers shifted. I saw heads turning, expressions changing. That's ridiculous, Ryan sputtered. You can't prove. Actually, I can. Jax pulled out more documents. See, when you started digging into Lila's past, you caught the attention of some interesting people. People who remembered your gambling debts, Ryan. People who kept very detailed records. Finn stepped forward, the false documents forgotten in his hands. What gambling debts? Tell them, Ryan, I said quietly. Tell them about the real reason you need this house so badly. Ryan's face had gone pale. Vanessa grabbed his arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his sleeve. Don't say anything. They're bluffing. Am I? Jax turned to the crowd. Mrs. Peterson, remember when your wedding rings disappeared during that dinner party? The one where Ryan helped clean up. The elderly neighbor gasped, hands flying to her chest. That's enough. Ryan lunged forward, but I was ready. One swift movement and he was on his knees, arm locked behind him, not hurting, just contained. Years of training made it look effortless. The truth, Ryan, I said firmly. All of it. Now. You don't understand, he gasped. The debts. They were going to hurt Vanessa. I had to do something. So you stole from your own grandmother? Finn's voice cracked. From our neighbors? I was going to pay it back. Ryan struggled against my hold. Once we got the house, we could sell it, start fresh. But you, he glared at me, you ruined everything. No, Ryan. I released him carefully. You did that yourself. Vanessa suddenly laughed, a sharp, desperate sound. You want the truth? Fine. We're broke. Worse than broke. Every property we bought is worthless. Every investment failed. And there you were, living in our house, playing happy families. It was never your house, a new voice said. We all turned to see Mia holding up her phone. And I have Grandma Carter's last video message to prove it. The screen showed the elderly woman in her hospital bed, clear-eyed and determined. I'm leaving the house to Ethan and Lila because they love it like I do. They'll preserve it, not sell it for quick cash like Ryan wants. I know about the stealing, the gambling. I'm not angry, just disappointed. The house needs protectors, not profiteers. Silence fell over the gathering. Ryan slumped, defeated. Vanessa's perfect mask cracked, tears streaming down her face. "I trusted you," Ethan said to his brother. "Even when the evidence was right in front of me, I wanted to believe in you." "I never meant." Ryan stopped, looking lost. "I didn't know how to ask for help." "You still could," I said softly. "But it starts with the truth. All of it." Ryan looked at me, then at Jax's documents, then at his wife. Something shifted in his expression, resignation, maybe, or relief. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." As Ryan began to speak, confessing everything, I felt Ethan's hand slip into mine. An apology, an acknowledgement, a promise. Sometimes victory isn't about winning the fight. Sometimes it's about giving your opponent the chance to surrender with dignity, to choose truth over pride. I'd learned that lesson the hard way years ago in the ring. Now, watching Ryan finally face his demons, I realized that maybe some fights are won not by striking, but by standing firm until the truth has nowhere else to hide. The house would stay ours, but more importantly, the truth would stay too, all of it, mine and Ryan's both. 'Cause sometimes the only way forward is to stop running from your past and learn to walk with it instead. 6 months after the confrontation, I found another note in our mailbox. My hands didn't shake this time as I opened it, though my heart skipped when I recognized Ryan's handwriting. "We're in Seattle now," it read. "Starting over. Really starting over. Thank you for not pressing charges. For giving us a chance to make things right." I sat on our porch swing, the same spot where this all began, and finished reading. Ryan had entered rehab for his gambling addiction. Vanessa was working at a real estate firm, legitimately this time. They were in therapy, both together and separately. "Everything okay?" Ethan appeared in the doorway, concern etched on his face. "Old hobbits die hard." "Your brother wrote." I handed him the letter. "They're doing better." He read in silence, then settled beside me on the swing. The evening air was cool, carrying the scent of Mrs. Peterson's roses. She'd finally forgiven us for all the drama after Ryan returned her wedding rings, along with a heartfelt apology. "Do you ever regret it?" Ethan asked quietly. "Showing mercy instead of pressing charges?" I thought about that moment after Ryan's confession when everyone expected me to demand justice, to make them pay for every threat, every lie. Instead, I'd offered a choice: face the consequences legally or take the chance to rebuild their lives somewhere else. "No," I said finally. "Some fights aren't worth winning if the victory costs too much." Ethan nodded, understanding what I meant. His relationship with Ryan was different now, cautious, fragile, but healing. Like a broken bone that needed time to mend properly. "Jax called today," he mentioned, changing the subject. "The community center wants you to teach self-defense classes. Said something about putting your skills to better use than throwing his brother-in-law around parking lots." I laughed, surprising myself. The sound echoed across our front yard, where neighborhood kids now played freely, no longer afraid of the scary librarian with the mysterious past. "Maybe I will," I mused. "It might be time to stop hiding who I am." "You never had to hide," Ethan said softly. "I'm sorry I ever made you feel like you did." Before I could respond, a car pulled into our driveway. Mia stepped out, carrying a folder of library event plans, while Jax followed with takeout bags. "Family dinner?" Mia called out, waving the folder. "We can plan the summer reading program while we eat." Family. The words settled warmly in my chest. Not just Ethan now, but Mia and Jax too. Even Mrs. Peterson, who'd taken to leaving her famous apple pies on our porch every Sunday. As we moved inside, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. Not just the librarian, not just the fighter, but something in between. Something whole. The house creaked softly around us, familiar and welcoming. Grandma Carter would have loved this, I thought. Not just preserving the building, but filling it with new life, new memories. Later that night, after our friends had left, I found one last surprise in Ryan's letter, a small key taped to the bottom of the page. "Found this in our things," his postscript read. It belongs to Grandma's old jewelry box. The real one, not the decoy she kept on her dresser. Maybe you'll have better luck finding it than we did. I showed Ethan, watching his eyes light up with recognition. The attic, he said. She always told us the house had secrets, but only for those patient enough to discover them properly. Tomorrow we'd climb into the attic and search for that hidden box. Tomorrow we'd add another chapter to this house's story. But for now, I was content to sit with Ethan, listening to our home's quiet breathing, feeling the perfect balance between my past and present. The last light of day filtered through our windows, casting long shadows that looked almost like they were dancing. Somewhere in Seattle, Ryan and Vanessa were building a new life. Here, in this house that had seen both battle and peace, we were building something too. Not just a home, but a testament to the fact that sometimes the strongest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from helping them find their way back to themselves.
I was rummaging through the attic, dust motes swirling in the sunbeams slicing through the small window. It was one of those lazy Sunday afternoons when I had nothing better to do. My name is Harper, and I never expected to find something that would turn my world upside down. But there it was, tucked inside an old cigar box beneath a pile of yellowing newspapers. A letter, aged and fragile, with my grandfather's handwriting on the front. I sat back on my heels, curiosity piqued. Grandpa had always been a bit of a mystery, a gentle soul with a twinkle in his eye. But he never talked much about his time at the helm of the family business. I unfolded the letter carefully, the paper crackling in protest. As I read, my heart began to race, a mix of disbelief and dread settling in my stomach. The letter hinted at something dark, something unethical happening within Callahan Pharmaceuticals. My grandfather had known, and he had tried to stop it, or at least, that's what the letter suggested. It was cryptic, as if he feared someone might find it. But the implications were clear enough to me. I sat there, the attic growing dimmer as the sun dipped lower in the sky, my mind racing. This could change everything. My father, Everett, had always been so proud of the company, his legacy. But what if that legacy was built on lies? I felt torn, my loyalty to my family clashing with the sense of justice that had driven me my whole life. I knew I had to do something, but what? I stood up, brushing the dust from my jeans, the letter clutched in my hand like a lifeline. My heart pounded as I made my way downstairs, each step heavy with the weight of what I had discovered. Dinner that night was a quiet affair, the clinking of cutlery and soft murmur of conversation filling the dining room. My mother, Lorraine, was in her element, talking about the latest charity gala she was organizing. My father sat at the head of the table, nodding along but clearly more interested in his phone. My brother Nolan was absent, as usual, off on some archaeological dig halfway across the world. I waited until there was a lull in the conversation before speaking up. I found something interesting in the attic today, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. Oh. My mother looked up, her interest piqued. What did you find, dear? Just some old letters from Grandpa, I replied, watching my father's reaction out of the corner of my eye. He paused, his fork halfway to his mouth, but said nothing. How lovely, my mother said with a dismissive smile, already turning her attention back to her salad. I pressed on, my heart pounding. Actually, one of them mentioned something about the company. Some kind of issue he was concerned about. My father finally looked up, his expression unreadable. Old news, Harper. Your grandfather worried about everything. He was a good man, but he saw problems where there weren't any. There was something in his tone that made me uneasy, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place. I nodded, not wanting to push too hard. Not yet. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and I could tell it was going to grow. After dinner, I retreated to my room, the letter spread out on my bed. I needed to know more. I needed to understand what my grandfather had been trying to say. I pulled out my laptop, determined to dig deeper into the company's history, to find out if there was any truth to his concerns. As I started my research, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of something much bigger than I had anticipated. My thoughts kept drifting back to my father, his dismissive tone, and the way he had avoided meeting my eyes. Was it possible he knew more than he was letting on? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't let this go. I had to know the truth, even if it meant uncovering something that could tear my family apart. I glanced at the clock, realizing it was already past midnight. I closed my laptop, exhaustion pulling at me, but my mind was still racing. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets were hidden within the walls of my family's empire. And more importantly, what would I do when I finally uncovered them? The next morning, I found myself back in the dining room, staring at the remnants of breakfast. The tension from the previous night still lingered in the air, like a storm cloud refusing to move on. I could feel it in the way my father avoided eye contact, the way my mother busied herself with her phone, and the empty chair that usually belonged to Nolan. I decided to take the plunge. "Dad," I started, trying to sound as casual as possible, "about that letter from Grandpa. I was thinking maybe there's more to it." He looked up from his newspaper, his expression carefully neutral. "Harper, it's not something you need to worry about. The company is in good hands." "Is it though?" I pressed, feeling a spark of defiance. "I mean, if Grandpa was worried, maybe we should be too." My mother's voice cut through, smooth and dismissive. "Darling, your grandfather was a wonderful man, but he often saw shadows where there were none. We should focus on the present." I nodded, but my mind was already racing. I needed to talk to Nolan. He had always been the one to question things, to dig deeper. Maybe he knew something. Later that day, I called him, the phone pressed tightly to my ear as I paced my room. His voice crackled through the line, distant but familiar. "Hey, Harper. What's up?" "I found something," I said, diving straight in. "A letter from Grandpa. It mentioned some issues with the company." There was a pause, a breath of hesitation. "Harper, I know about it." His admission hung in the air between us, heavy and unexpected. "You knew?" I asked, my voice a mix of surprise and hurt. "Why didn't you say anything?" "It's complicated," Nolan replied, his tone weary. "You know how Dad is. And Clayton. He's been involved too." "Clayton. Of course." Our cousin had always been ambitious, always vying for a bigger piece of the family pie. "What do you mean?" "Look, I can't get into it over the phone. But there's more going on than you realize. Be careful, okay?" I hung up, feeling more confused than ever. If Nolan was worried, then this was bigger than I thought. I needed to find out what Clayton was up to, how he fit into all of this. That evening, I cornered Clayton at a family gathering. He was standing by the bar, a drink in hand, charming as ever. "Harper," he greeted me with a wide smile. "Long time no see." "Yeah, it's been a while," I replied, trying to keep things light. "I wanted to ask you about the company. I've heard some things." His smile faltered, just for a moment. "Oh? What have you heard?" "Just some rumors," I said, watching him closely. "About some questionable practices." "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Clayton chuckled, but there was an edge to it. "You know how people talk. Always looking for something scandalous." I nodded, pretending to accept his answer, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He was hiding something, and I was determined to find out what. As the evening wore on, I kept an eye on Clayton. He was schmoozing with some of the board members, his charm on full display. But there was something else, a tension in his shoulders, a quick glance over his shoulder every now and then. He was nervous, and that only fueled my resolve. Back at home, I sat on my bed, the weight of the day pressing down on me. My family was hiding something, and I was caught in the middle of it. I thought about my patients, the people who trusted me to help them navigate their own challenges. How could I stand by and do nothing when my own family might be hurting others? I knew what I had to do. I needed to dig deeper to find the truth, no matter the cost. As I lay down, the room darkening around me, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of a precipice, about to leap into the unknown. The next morning, I woke with a new determination. I needed to talk to Elias to get his perspective. He had always been my rock, my sounding board. As I dialed his number, I couldn't help but wonder what he would think of all this. Would he stand by me, or would this be the thing that finally drove us apart? As the phone rang, my heart beat in time with it, each ring a reminder that I was on a path I couldn't turn back from. After my conversation with Elias, I felt a renewed sense of determination. He had listened patiently, his calm, steady presence grounding me as I poured out my fears and suspicions. His encouragement to confront my father had given me the push I needed. I knew it was time to face the truth, no matter how painful. I spent the next morning combing through the financial records I'd managed to dig up. The numbers were dizzying, a tangled web of transactions that seemed to hint at something more sinister beneath the surface. I took a deep breath, knowing I had to confront my father with what I'd found. That evening, I found him in his study, the room dimly lit by the glow of his desk lamp. He looked up as I entered, his expression unreadable. "Harper," he greeted me, his voice a mix of curiosity and caution. "Dad, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the nerves twisting in my stomach. I laid the records on his desk, the paper rustling ominously in the quiet room. "I found these. They don't look right." He glanced at the papers, his expression shifting from surprise to something harder, more guarded. "Where did you get these?" he asked, his tone sharp. "Does it matter?" I shot back, feeling a surge of defiance. "What matters is what they show. There's something wrong, and you know it." He leaned back in his chair, a heavy sigh escaping him. For a moment, I saw a flicker of vulnerability, a crack in the facade. "Harper, you don't understand. This is business. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions." "Tough decisions?" I echoed, incredulous. "Grandpa wanted to stop this. He knew it was wrong." "Your grandfather was an idealist," my father replied, his voice tinged with frustration. "He didn't understand the pressures of running a company like this." I shook my head, disbelief coursing through me. "You can't justify this, Dad. It's not right." He stood up, his posture commanding. "This is my legacy, Harper. I built this company from the ground up. I won't let you ruin it with your naive ideals." I felt a flash of anger, the heat rising in my cheeks. Naive? Or honest? I can't just stand by and watch you destroy everything Grandpa stood for. He looked at me, a mix of anger and disappointment in his eyes. "You need to decide where your loyalties lie, Harper." I turned and walked out, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt like I was being torn in two, my love for my family clashing with my need to do what was right. As I left the house, I realized I needed to clear my head to think about what to do next. I found myself wandering through the park, the crisp evening air cooling my heated skin. The conversation with my father replayed in my mind, each word a painful reminder of the rift between us. I felt a hand on my shoulder and turned to see Elias, his presence a balm to my frayed nerves. "Hey," he said softly, his eyes full of understanding. "Hey," I replied, grateful for his support. I confronted him. It didn't go well. He nodded, a look of sympathy on his face. "I figured it wouldn't. But you did the right thing, Harper." "I don't know what to do now," I admitted, feeling the weight of my choices pressing down on me. "Whatever you decide, I'm here," he said, his voice steady. "You have to follow your heart, even if it's hard." We walked in silence for a while, the path winding through the trees. I knew I had a decision to make, one that could change everything. As we walked, Elias's phone buzzed with a message. He glanced at it, his expression shifting to one of surprise. "What is it?" I asked, curious. "It's from Nolan," Elias replied, handing me the phone. "He says he has something important to tell you." A new wave of uncertainty washed over me. What could Nolan know that was so urgent? I felt a flicker of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, there was a way to untangle this mess. As we made our way back, my mind was racing with possibilities. I knew I was on the brink of something big, a revelation that could change everything. But what would it mean for my family, for the legacy my father was so desperate to protect? The path ahead was uncertain, but I felt a spark of determination reignite within me. Whatever Nolan had to say, I was ready to face it head-on, armed with the truth and the support of those I loved. The following day, I met Nolan at a small cafe. The kind of place where the hum of conversation and clatter of dishes provided a comforting backdrop to difficult talks. He was already seated at a corner table, his expression a mix of apprehension and determination. As I approached, he stood to greet me, pulling me into a quick hug. "Thanks for coming," he said, his voice low. "I know things have been complicated." "That's one way to put it," I replied, taking a seat across from him. "So, What is it you needed to tell me? He hesitated, glancing around as if to ensure we weren't overheard. I've been looking into the company, Harper. There's more going on than just financial discrepancies. The weight of his words settled over me like a heavy fog. What do you mean? Nolan leaned forward, his eyes serious. Clayton's been manipulating the numbers. He's involved in some kind of insider trading scheme. I think he's planning to take control of the company. I felt a chill run down my spine. Are you sure? I've seen the evidence, he said, sliding a folder across the table. It's all there. I didn't want to believe it either, but Clayton's been playing everyone. He's using the company's resources for his own gain. I opened the folder, the documents inside confirming Nolan's claims. My mind raced, the implications spinning out in all directions. If this was true, it could destroy everything my father had built. And Clayton. I should have known he was up to something. What do we do? I asked, feeling the enormity of the situation pressing down on me. Nolan sighed, running a hand through his hair. We have to confront him, but we need to be careful. Clayton's not going to go down without a fight. I nodded, the resolve hardening within me. This was bigger than just our family. It was about justice, about stopping Clayton before he could do more damage. But I knew we had to tread carefully. Back at home, I found myself pacing the living room, the folder clutched in my hands. I needed to talk to Elias to figure out our next steps. As if on cue, he walked in, his expression shifting to concern as he saw my face. Harper, what's wrong? He asked, coming to stand beside me. It's Clayton, I began, handing him the folder. He's been manipulating the company. Nolan found proof. Elias scanned the documents, his brow furrowing. This is serious. If we expose this, it could ruin him. Exactly, I said, feeling the weight of the decision before us. But if we don't, who knows what he'll do next? Elias nodded, his gaze steady. We have to do what's right, Harper, even if it's hard. I took a deep breath, grateful for his unwavering support. I know, but this could tear my family apart. We'll face it together, he assured me, his hand warm on my shoulder. That evening, I called a family meeting, my heart pounding as I waited for everyone to gather. My father was first to arrive, his expression wary. My mother followed, her usual poise tinged with curiosity. Nolan was last, his presence a silent show of support. Once we were all seated, I took a deep breath, the words heavy on my tongue. I have something to tell you. It's about Clayton. My father's gaze sharpened, his posture tense. What about him? I slid the folder across the table, watching as he opened it, his expression shifting from confusion to anger. These are serious accusations, Harper. They're not accusations, I replied, my voice steady. They're facts. Clayton's been using the company for his own gain. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Everett, is this true? He looked up, his face a mask of disbelief. I don't know. But if it is, we can't let it continue. The room was silent, the weight of the revelation settling over us like a thick fog. My father looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and betrayal. What do you want to do? I met his gaze, feeling the strength of my convictions. We need to confront Clayton. We can't let him destroy everything Grandpa worked for. There was a pause, the tension in the room palpable. Then slowly, my father nodded, a reluctant acceptance in his eyes. You're right. We need to stop him. As the meeting ended, I felt a sense of resolution, a new determination to see this through. But I knew the hardest part was yet to come. Confronting Clayton would be a battle, one that could change everything. But with Elias and Nolan by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came next. The next morning, I woke with a sense of dread curling in my stomach. Today was the day we would confront Clayton. I could feel the tension in the air as I got ready, each movement heavy with anticipation. Elias was already up, his calm presence a reassuring anchor in the storm of my thoughts. Are you ready for this? He asked, handing me a cup of coffee. As ready as I'll ever be, I replied, trying to muster a smile. We need to stop him before things get worse. We met Nolan outside the office building, the morning sun casting long shadows on the pavement. He looked as tense as I felt, but there was a determination in his eyes that mirrored my own. Together, we walked through the glass doors, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the lobby. Clayton was in his office, a sleek, modern space that seemed to reflect his ambition. He looked up as we entered, surprise flickering across his face before he masked it with a smile. "Harper, Nolan. What brings you here?" I took a deep breath, stepping forward. "We know what you've been doing, Clayton. The insider trading, the manipulation. It's over." He leaned back in his chair, the smile never leaving his face. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Nolan placed the folder on Clayton's desk, the document spilling out like a damning cascade. "It's all there. You can't deny it." Clayton's eyes flicked over the papers, his expression darkening. "You think you can just walk in here and accuse me of this? You're playing a dangerous game." "I'm not the one playing games," I shot back, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "This isn't about us. It's about doing what's right." He stood, his demeanor shifting from casual to threatening in an instant. "You have no idea what you're getting into. This company is mine, and I won't let anyone take it from me." The room was thick with tension, the air crackling with unspoken threats. I could feel my heart pounding, my resolve hardening with each beat. "We're not backing down, Clayton. Not this time." For a moment, I thought he might lash out, but then he laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "You think you're so righteous, Harper. But you're just like the rest of us, clinging to a legacy that doesn't belong to you." His words hit me like a blow, the truth of them stinging more than I cared to admit. But I couldn't let him see that. I couldn't let him win. "This isn't about the legacy. It's about justice." Nolan stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We're giving you a chance to step down quietly. If you don't, we'll have to take this public." Clayton's eyes narrowed, the mask slipping to reveal the anger beneath. "You think you're the heroes in this story? You're just pawns in a game you don't understand." I met his gaze, refusing to back down. "Maybe. But at least we're trying to change the rules." The silence that followed was heavy, the weight of our confrontation hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Finally, Clayton nodded, a reluctant acceptance in his eyes. "Fine. You want to fight? You've got one." As we left his office, I felt a mix of relief and apprehension. We had taken the first step, but I knew the battle was far from over. Clayton wouldn't go down without a fight, and the stakes were higher than ever. Back at home, I found myself pacing the living room, my mind racing with possibilities. I knew we had done the right thing, but the fear of what might come next gnawed at me. Elias watched me, his calm presence a balm to my frayed nerves. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. "I don't know," I admitted, stopping to face him. "I thought I knew what I was doing, but now, everything feels so uncertain." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "It's okay to be scared, Harper. But you're not alone in this." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I just hope we're doing the right thing." "We are," he assured me, taking my hand. "And whatever happens, we'll face it together." As the day wore on, I felt a new determination settling over me. This was about more than just my family. It was about standing up for what was right, even when it was hard. I knew the road ahead would be tough, but with Elias and Nolan by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came next. The family gathering was supposed to be a celebration, a momentary pause in the storm that had engulfed us. But as I stood among the familiar faces, the weight of what I had to do pressed down on me like a physical force. The room buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. I spotted my father across the room, his presence a commanding force as he held court among a circle of board members. My mother was nearby, her laughter ringing out like a melody in the chaos. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. Elias squeezed my hand, his silent support grounding me. I nodded, a wordless exchange that conveyed everything I couldn't say aloud. It was time. I approached my father, each step feeling like a mile. He looked up as I neared, his smile faltering as he read the determination in my eyes. "Harper," he greeted me, his tone cautious. "Enjoying the party?" "We need to talk," I said, keeping my voice low. He nodded, excusing himself from the group and leading me to a quieter corner. "What's this about?" I took a deep breath, the words heavy on my tongue. "It's about Clayton." We confronted him. His expression darkened, a mix of anger and disbelief. You did what? He's been using the company for his own gain, Dad. We have proof, I said, my voice steady despite the fear knotting in my stomach. He shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping him. You're making a mistake, Harper. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand enough, I replied, feeling the heat of my convictions. This isn't about us. It's about what's right. He leaned in, his voice low and dangerous. And you think you're the one to decide that? You're just a child playing at being a hero. His words stung, but I refused to back down. I'm trying to fix what's broken, Dad. This company isn't what it used to be. He straightened, a cold fury in his eyes. You're just like your grandfather, always seeing problems where there are none. Maybe he was right. I shot back, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Maybe you're the one who's blind. The silence that followed was deafening, the tension between us a living thing. I could see the hurt in his eyes, a vulnerability I hadn't expected, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by a steely resolve. You're making a choice, Harper, he said, his voice cold. And you'll have to live with the consequences. I felt a chill run through me, the finality of his words sinking in. I know, but I can't stand by and do nothing. He turned away, dismissing me with a wave of his hand. Then you're no daughter of mine. The words hit me like a physical blow, the air rushing from my lungs. I stood there, frozen, as he walked away, his back a wall I couldn't breach. I felt Elias's presence beside me, his arms slipping around my shoulders, pulling me back into the present. Harper, he murmured, his voice a lifeline. We'll get through this. I nodded, the motion automatic. But inside I felt hollow, like a part of me had been carved out and discarded. My father's words echoed in my mind, a reminder of the cost of my choices. As the evening wore on, I found myself retreating to the edges of the gathering, the noise and laughter a distant hum. I felt adrift, the ground beneath me shifting with each passing moment. Nolan found me there, his expression a mirror of my own turmoil. I'm sorry, Harper, he said, his voice thick with regret. I didn't think it would come to this. It's not your fault, I replied, though the words felt empty. We did what we had to do. He nodded, a silent agreement that did little to ease the ache in my chest. We'll figure it out. Together. As the night drew to a close, I felt a new determination settle over me. I had lost my father's support, but I still had Elias and Nolan, and I still had the truth. It would have to be enough. But as we left the party, a new complication arose. A call from the office, urgent and insistent, pulling me back into the fray. Clayton had made his move, a last-ditch effort to seize control and silence us once and for all. The stakes had never been higher, and the path ahead was fraught with danger. But I knew I had to see this through, to fight for what was right, no matter the cost. The news from the office hit like a punch to the gut. Clayton had called an emergency board meeting, a last-ditch effort to consolidate his power and silence us for good. I felt the urgency in every fiber of my being as we rushed to the company headquarters, Elias and Nolan at my side, a united front against the storm. The boardroom was already buzzing with tension when we arrived, the air thick with anticipation and unspoken alliances. Clayton stood at the head of the table, exuding confidence, his eyes gleaming with the arrogance of someone who believed victory was within reach. Harper, he said, his voice smooth and condescending. I was wondering when you'd show up. I met his gaze, refusing to be intimidated. This ends today, Clayton. He laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. You think you can just waltz in here and take what's mine? You're delusional. The board members shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between us, sensing the battle lines being drawn. I felt the weight of their scrutiny, but I couldn't back down now. We have evidence, I said, my voice steady. Evidence of your insider trading, your manipulation of the company's finances. It's over. Clayton's smile faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face before he masked it with bravado. You're bluffing. You have nothing. Nolan stepped forward, placing a thick file on the table. We have everything. And if you don't step down, we'll take it public. The room fell silent, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. Clayton's eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint in them. You think you're the saviors of this company? You're just trying to destroy everything we've built. We're trying to save it, I countered, feeling the truth of my words resonate within me. This isn't about revenge, Clayton. It's about justice. He sneered, his composure slipping. Justice? You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a spoiled brat trying to play with the big boys. The words stung, but I held my ground, drawing strength from Elias and Nolan beside me. I'm not playing, Clayton. This is real. And it's time you faced the consequences. The board members exchanged glances, the tide of opinion shifting as they weighed the evidence before them. I could see the doubt creeping into their eyes, the realization that Clayton's reign might be over. But then, in a move I hadn't anticipated, Clayton pulled out a document of his own, slamming it onto the table with a triumphant grin. You think you've won? Think again. This is a contract, signed by your father, giving me control of the majority shares. My heart sank, the revelation hitting like a cold wave. I glanced at Nolan, his expression mirroring my shock. This was the twist we hadn't foreseen. The final card up Clayton's sleeve. The room erupted into chaos, voices overlapping as the board members reacted to Clayton's revelation. I felt the ground slipping away, the certainty I'd clung to crumbling beneath me. But just as despair threatened to take hold, Elias stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. That contract is void. All eyes turned to him, the room falling silent once more. Clayton's smirk faltered, confusion flashing across his face. What are you talking about? Elias held up another document, his expression calm and resolute. This is a legal opinion, confirming that the contract is invalid due to conflict of interest and lack of disclosure. Clayton's face paled, the confidence draining from him as he realized his trump card had been played and lost. I felt a surge of hope, the tide turning once more in our favor. The board members murmured among themselves, the balance of power shifting as they reconsidered their loyalties. Clayton's grip on the company was slipping, and he knew it. You haven't won, he spat, desperation lacing his words. This isn't over. I met his gaze, feeling the strength of my convictions. It is over, Clayton. It's time for you to step down. The room held its breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on us all. Clayton's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving him as he realized the inevitability of his defeat. As he turned and left the room, the tension began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of relief and vindication. We had faced the storm and emerged victorious, the truth prevailing against the odds. In that moment, I felt the themes of justice and integrity come full circle, the lessons of my journey crystallizing into a new understanding. This wasn't just about revenge or family. It was about doing what was right, no matter the cost. And as I stood there, surrounded by those who had stood by me, I knew we had done just that. In the weeks following the showdown at the boardroom, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Clayton's departure had left a void in the company, but it also opened up opportunities for change and healing. The board had appointed a new interim CEO, someone with integrity who was committed to rebuilding trust and transparency. Elias and I threw ourselves into the startup, channeling our energy into creating something meaningful and innovative. It was exhilarating to see our ideas take shape, to build a company grounded in the values we both held dear. Our partnership, both personal and professional, felt stronger than ever. One afternoon, I found myself back at my grandfather's house, sorting through the last of his belongings. The attic was warm with the afternoon sun, and I felt a sense of peace as I sifted through the memories. As I opened an old trunk, I discovered a stack of letters tied with a faded ribbon, each one addressed to me. Curious, I sat down and began to read. The letters were filled with my grandfather's musings, his hopes for the family, and his deep love for us all. One line stood out to me: Harper, always remember that true strength lies in kindness and the courage to stand for what is right. The words resonated deeply, a reminder of the journey I had taken and the lessons I had learned. I felt a renewed sense of purpose, a commitment to honor his legacy in my own way. Later that day, Elias and I met Nolan for coffee. The cafe was bustling, the air filled with the aroma of fresh pastries and the hum of conversation. Nolan looked more at ease than I had seen him in a long time, the weight of secrecy lifted from his shoulders. I've been thinking, Nolan said, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. Maybe it's time I came back for a while. Help out with the company, see if I can make a difference. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. I think that's a great idea. You've always had a way of seeing things others miss. He nodded, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. And maybe I can finally figure out what I want. Outside of Dad's shadow, Elias raised his cup in a toast. To new beginnings. We clinked our cups together, the sound a small celebration of hope and renewal. As we left the cafe, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. It was a simple note, asking if we could meet. I hesitated, the old wounds still tender, but Elias squeezed my hand, offering silent encouragement. When I arrived at the park where we had agreed to meet, Lorraine was already there, looking elegant and composed. As I approached, she turned, a soft smile on her face. "Harper," she said, her voice gentle. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," I replied, unsure of what to expect. She gestured to a bench, and we sat down, the silence between us comfortable yet charged with unspoken words. Finally, she spoke, her voice tinged with regret. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened. About the choices we've made." I nodded, letting her continue. "I want you to know that I'm proud of you," she said, her eyes meeting mine, "for standing up for what you believe in. It's not easy, but you did it." The words were a balm to my soul, a healing I hadn't realized I needed. "Thank you, Mom. That means a lot." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of past conflicts slowly lifting. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a start, a chance for healing and understanding. As I walked back home, I felt a sense of closure, a peace that had eluded me for so long. The journey had been difficult, filled with challenges and heartbreak, but it had also been transformative. I had found my voice, my strength, and a path that was uniquely mine. The future was uncertain, but I knew I was ready to face it, armed with the lessons of the past and the support of those I loved. And as I looked ahead, I realized that true success wasn't about wealth or power, but about integrity, love, and the courage to do what is right. In that moment, I understood that my grandfather's legacy lived on, not just in the company, but in the values he had instilled in me. And I was determined to carry them forward, building a future that honored the past while embracing the possibilities of tomorrow.
I never thought a single email would unravel my entire world. It arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was sipping coffee at my desk, buried in quarterly reports. The subject line was simple: Hartman Industries urgent. I almost marked it as spam. My name is Lila, and until that moment, I thought I knew everything about my family's business. Being the eldest daughter of Everett Hartman meant growing up with spreadsheets instead of bedtime stories. I'd spent the last 5 years working my way up through different departments, determined to prove I was more than just the boss's daughter. The email contained 2 attachments. The first was a series of financial records showing irregular transactions dating back 18 months. The second was a simple note: "Trust no one, not even family." My hands trembled as I scrolled through the documents. The numbers didn't add up, literally. There were discrepancies in the international accounts, patterns that seemed deliberately designed to hide something. But what caught my eye was the digital signature at the bottom of each transaction. NR. Nolan Reese. My brother-in-law. "Hey, superstar." Speaking of the devil, Nolan's voice made me jump. I slammed my laptop shut as he appeared in my office doorway, wearing his trademark $1,000 smile. "Your father wants us in the conference room. Quarterly review time." "I'll be right there," I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. Nolan lingered, his eyes flickering to my closed laptop. "Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just caffeine jitters," I lied, forcing a smile. "Third cup of the day." He laughed, but something in his expression shifted, just for a second. "Well, don't keep the old man waiting. You know how he gets." I watched him walk away, his perfectly tailored suit hiding whatever secrets he carried. The same suit my sister Iris had probably helped him pick out, completely unaware of what her husband might be doing. The conference room was already full when I arrived. My father stood at the head of the table, commanding attention without saying a word. At 62, he still had the same presence that had built Hartman Industries from the ground up. His silver hair and stern expression were as much a part of the company's image as our logo. "Lila, nice of you to join us," he said, his tone carrying that familiar edge of disappointment. Nolan was just about to present the international division's numbers. I took my seat, watching Nolan set up his presentation with practiced ease. My mind raced. Should I say something now? Confront him in front of everyone? But what if I was wrong? What if the email was just someone trying to cause trouble? As you can see, Nolan's voice cut through my thoughts. Our Asian markets have shown remarkable growth this quarter. I studied the slides, seeing them with new eyes. The numbers he presented were different from the ones in my email. Either the email was wrong, or Nolan was very good at covering his tracks. "Excellent work, son," my father said, clapping Nolan on the shoulder. The pride in his voice made my stomach turn. It was the tone I'd spent my entire life trying to earn. After the meeting, I lingered in the conference room, pretending to organize my notes. My father and Nolan were the last to leave, discussing golf plans for the weekend. Just before they walked out, Nolan turned back. "Oh, Lila, delete any weird emails you get today. IT says there's some phishing scam going around." Our eyes met, and in that moment, I knew two things with absolute certainty. First, the email wasn't a scam. And second, Nolan knew exactly what I'd received. The game was on. The only question was, how far was I willing to go to protect my family from one of its own? Family dinners at the Hartman Mansion had always been a minefield, but tonight felt different. Maybe it was the weight of the USB drive in my jacket pocket, filled with more suspicious transactions I'd discovered. Or maybe it was the way Nolan kept glancing at me across the elaborate dining room table, his usual charm tinged with something darker. "The salmon is lovely, Celeste," Nolan said, flashing his perfect smile at my mother. "You've outdone yourself." "Oh, I wish I could take credit," Mom laughed. "But you know I leave the cooking to Maria these days." I pushed my food around my plate, my appetite gone. 3 days of digging through company records had revealed a pattern that made my skin crawl. International accounts that didn't quite match up, partnerships with shell companies that seemed to exist only on paper. "Lila," my father's voice cut through my thoughts, "I noticed you've been requesting access to files outside your department." The clinking of silverware stopped. Iris, my sister, looked up from her phone for the first time all evening. "Just trying to understand the bigger picture," I said carefully. "You always say a good leader needs to see how all the pieces fit together." "There's a difference between understanding and overstepping," he replied. "Some of those files are sensitive. Nolan's been working hard on those international deals." "Has he?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. "Because the numbers from the Singapore office don't quite add up." Nolan's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "What do you mean?" "Just that the reported profits don't match the operational costs. Almost like money's disappearing somewhere between here and there." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. My father set down his wine glass with deliberate care. "If you have concerns about the company's finances, you bring them to me privately," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Not at the dinner table." "When, Dad? Between your golf games with Nolan or your private meetings where I'm not invited?" "Lila," my mother warned, but I was past caring. "Did you know about the shell companies? Or the offshore accounts that keep showing up in the paperwork?" "That's enough." My father's fist hit the table, making the crystal glasses jump. "You're letting your imagination run wild. Nolan has brought in more international business in 2 years than we've seen in the last decade. Because he's cooking the books." Silence fell like a hammer. Iris stared at me, her face pale. "What are you talking about?" "Ask your husband," I said, meeting Nolan's steady gaze. "Ask him about the transactions signed NR that don't appear in the official records." "This is ridiculous," Nolan laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Everett, I think Lila's been working too hard. Maybe she needs a break." "I agree," my father said. "Take some time off, Lila. Clear your head. You're suspending me?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "While he's potentially stealing from the company? While you're making unfounded accusations against family," he corrected. "Nolan is as much my son as you are my daughter." The words hit like a physical blow. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "Family doesn't steal from family," I said quietly. "And some of us actually earned our place in the company." I walked out, ignoring my mother's calls to come back. In the hallway, I heard footsteps behind me. "That was quite a show." Nolan's voice was soft, meant only for me. "But you might want to be careful where you point that finger. You never know what else might come to light." I turned to face him. "Is that a threat?" "Just some friendly advice," he smiled. "Family's complicated enough without stirring up trouble. Wouldn't want Iris getting hurt in all this, would we?" He walked away, leaving me with the sickening realization that I'd just made things much worse. But as I stood there, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You're looking in the right place. But you're not seeing the whole picture yet. Check the Morrison acquisition from last year. The game wasn't over. It was just getting started." The Morrison acquisition files were like finding a map to buried treasure. If the treasure was evidence of my brother-in-law's betrayal. I'd spent 3 days holed up in my apartment, using my forced break to dig deeper into the company records I'd managed to download before leaving. The numbers were worse than I'd imagined. Morrison Technologies had been valued at twice its actual worth, with the excess apparently vanishing into a maze of offshore accounts. But something else caught my eye. A series of emails between Nolan and someone using an encrypted address, discussing what they called Plan B. My doorbell rang, startling me out of my research haze. Through the peephole, I saw Iris, looking uncharacteristically serious. "You look terrible," she said when I opened the door. "When's the last time you slept?" "I'm fine." I stepped aside to let her in, quickly closing my laptop. "What brings you here?" "Dad's worried about you." She perched on my couch, studying me. "He thinks you're having some kind of breakdown." "Of course he does." I laughed, but it came out bitter. Because heaven forbid something actually be wrong with his perfect company or his perfect son-in-law. About that, Iris twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit she'd had since childhood. "Nolan's been acting strange lately. Coming home late, taking calls in private. I found a receipt for a safety deposit box I didn't know about." My heart raced. "Have you looked inside it?" "No, but..." She pulled something from her purse, a small key. "I copied this while he was in the shower." I stared at the key, thinking about Nolan's threat at dinner. "Iris, if you're having doubts about Nolan, maybe you should." "Mrs. Reese." A man's voice called from my hallway, followed by rapid knocking. "Building security. We need to speak with you." Iris froze. "I told Nolan I was going shopping." I moved quickly, grabbing my laptop and the USB drive. "Fire escape. Now." We slipped out just as my door burst open. Through the window, I glimpsed 2 men in suits, definitely not building security. "What's happening?" Iris whispered as we climbed down. "Who are they?" "I don't know, but I don't think they're here about overdue rent." My phone buzzed, another text from the unknown number. "Bank of Commerce. Downtown branch. Box 2317. "Hurry. That's the bank where Nolan's box is," Iris said, reading over my shoulder. "Then that's where we're going." I flagged down a taxi. "You should go home, pretend you know nothing about this." "No way." She grabbed my arm. "He's my husband. If he's involved in something illegal, I need to know." The bank was nearly empty when we arrived. Iris's hand shook as she used the key, but the box opened smoothly. Inside was a single manila envelope. "Oh God," Iris whispered as we spread the contents across a private viewing table. Photos of our father meeting with known corporate raiders. Documents showing massive loans taken out against company assets. And a contract signed by both Nolan and our father to sell controlling interest in Hartman Industries. He's not stealing from the company, I realized, the pieces finally clicking together. He's helping Dad strip it for parts before it goes under. Why would they do this? Iris's voice cracked. Because the company's been failing for years. Nolan's voice made us both jump. He stood in the doorway, looking tired rather than triumphant. Your father's been hiding it, taking bigger and bigger risks to keep up appearances. I tried to help him find a way out. By betraying everyone who trusts you? I stepped between him and Iris. By saving what I could before it all collapses. He ran a hand through his hair. The hostile takeover is happening whether we cooperate or not. This way, at least the family gets something out of it. You're wrong, I said, gathering the documents. There's always another way. Lila, he called as we pushed past him. You can't stop this. Even your father knows it's over. I turned back, seeing not the confident manipulator I'd feared, but a desperate man trying to justify his choices. Watch me. As we left the bank, my phone buzzed one final time. Now you know the truth. What are you going to do about it? Good question. The game had changed, but I wasn't done playing yet. Not by a long shot. The family estate looked different in the rain. Smaller somehow, less intimidating. I sat in my car, watching droplets race down the windshield, the manila envelope from the bank heavy in my lap. Iris had gone home to deal with Nolan. Whatever that meant. But I needed answers from someone else first. My mother opened the door before I could knock. I wondered when you'd come, she said, pulling me inside. Your father's not here. Golf despite the weather. With Nolan? No. She studied my face. You look just like him, you know. When something's eating at you, you get the same crease between your eyebrows. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and coffee, Mom's comfort routine when she was worried. She poured 2 cups without asking. How long have you known? I placed the envelope on the counter between us. About what? Her hands trembled slightly as she added cream to her coffee. About Dad selling out the company. About everything falling apart while he pretends everything's fine. She sat down heavily. Since last Christmas. I overheard him arguing with someone on the phone about loan payments. He didn't know I was there. And you didn't say anything? To whom, Lila? Your father hasn't really listened to me in years. Not about anything important. She touched the envelope. What's in here? Proof. Of the loans, the secret meetings, the deal he made with Nolan too. The sound of breaking glass made us both jump. In the doorway stood Iris, mascara streaked down her face. I went to confront Nolan, she said, her voice hollow. But he was already gone. The apartment's empty. His clothes, his papers, everything. Mom rushed to hold her, but Iris pushed past us both, grabbing the envelope and dumping its contents across the kitchen counter. He left this. She held up a handwritten note. Says he's sorry, but it's too late to stop what's coming. That Dad made deals he can't back out of. What kind of deals? Mom asked. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a news alert. My stomach dropped as I read the headline. Hartman Industries stocks plummet amid rumors of hostile takeover. It's starting, I whispered. They're making their move. Who is? Iris demanded. Morrison Technologies. The same company that... I stopped, seeing Mom's expression. What? Morrison? She went pale. Charles Morrison? You know him? She walked to the study, returning with an old photo album. Charles Morrison and your father were best friends in college. Business partners in their first venture. Until your father. Well, he always said he did what he had to do to succeed. The photo showed two young men grinning at the camera, arms around each other's shoulders. I recognized my father, but the other man. That's him, I said, pulling up a recent photo on my phone. That's who Dad's been meeting with. But why would he help Dad now? Help him. Mom laughed bitterly. Charles Morrison spent 30 years waiting for revenge. What better way than to let Everett think he was saving the company, only to destroy it completely? My phone buzzed again, the anonymous number. Checked the basement storage room. Behind the wine rack. Hurry! How are you getting these messages? Iris asked, reading over my shoulder. I don't know, but they've been right so far. The basement was cold and damp. Together, we moved the wine rack, revealing a wall safe I'd never noticed before. Mom's hands shook as she entered the combination. Your father's birthday, she explained. He never was creative with passwords. Inside was a single USB drive and another handwritten note. For Lila, when you're ready to know everything. Love, Dad. The date on this. Mom touched the paper gently. This was written 3 months ago. My phone buzzed one final time. Now you have all the pieces. Time to choose. Save the company or save your father. You can't do both. I looked at Mom and Iris, seeing my own fear reflected in their eyes. Dad hadn't just been hiding the company's problems. He'd been preparing for something. But what? The real game was just beginning, and I had a sickening feeling we were all just pawns on someone else's board. The USB drive from Dad's safe contained exactly what I expected, and everything I feared. Financial records, old correspondence, and a video file dated 3 days before Nolan disappeared. My hands trembled as I pressed play. Lila. My father's face filled the screen, looking older than I remembered. If you're watching this, then Charles Morrison has made his move. I knew this day would come, but I hoped. He paused, rubbing his temples. What I did to Charles 30 years ago was unforgivable. I stole more than just his share of the company. I stole his future, his reputation. Now he's taking everything back, and I deserve it. But you don't. A knock at my apartment door made me jump. Through the peephole, I saw a face I recognized from the photos, Charles Morrison himself. Miss Hartman, he smiled when I opened the door. I believe we're overdue for a chat. He looked nothing like the young man from the photo album. Time had hardened him, carved deep lines around cold eyes. Where's my father? Safe. For now. He settled into my armchair like he owned it. I assume you've seen the video. Did he tell you what really happened in '93? He stole your share of the company. Morrison laughed, but there was no humor in it. He stole my company, my patents, then fabricated evidence that I was selling trade secrets to competitors. I lost everything, my reputation, my family, even my freedom for a while. And now you're doing the same to him? No, he leaned forward. I'm offering you a choice. One your father never gave me. He pulled out a folder, sliding it across my coffee table. Inside was a contract, a way to save Hartman Industries by selling it to Morrison Technologies, piece by piece. Sign this, and the company survives under new management. Refuse, and I destroy everything your father built. He checked his watch. You have until midnight. Why me? Why not ask Dad? Because Everett Hartman would rather watch it all burn than admit defeat. But you. He studied me carefully. You understand sacrifice for the greater good. Just like your mother did. My blood ran cold. What does my mother have to do with this? Ask her about September 1993. About the real reason she helped your father destroy me. He stood to leave. Oh, and Lila? Don't bother looking for Nolan. He was just doing his job, my job. After he left, I called Mom. Her voice shook when I mentioned September 1993. I can't. Not over the phone, she whispered. Meet me at the lake house. Come alone. The family lake house held countless summer memories, but in the gathering dusk, it looked abandoned, forgotten. Mom sat on the deck, staring at the water. Charles Morrison was in love with me, she said as I sat beside her. Before your father. We were engaged, but I chose Everett instead. When Charles threatened to expose some of Everett's early business dealings, I helped destroy him. The evidence against Charles was my idea. My phone buzzed, another anonymous text. The truth hurts, doesn't it? But there's more. Check the boathouse. Don't, Mom grabbed my arm. Please. But I was already moving. The boathouse door creaked open, revealing a figure in the shadows. Hello, sweetheart. My father stepped into the fading light. I suppose we need to talk. About what? How you and Mom ruined an innocent man's life. How you let Nolan spy on your own family. Or about how you're hiding here while everything falls apart. About how I'm trying to protect you, he said quietly. Morrison doesn't want revenge, Lila. He wants to destroy our family completely. The company is just the beginning. My phone buzzed one final time. Time to choose, Lila. Family or justice? You have 2 hours left. Don't trust anyone who claims to love you. They're all liars. I looked at my father, the man I'd spent my whole life trying to please, and my mother, who'd sacrificed her conscience for love. The truth hadn't set anyone free. It had just revealed how deep the lies went. No more secrets, I said. Tell me everything. Now. The lake water lapped at the shore, counting down the minutes until midnight, when I'd have to decide who to betray, my family or my principles. Maybe in the end they were the same thing. The boardroom felt like a tomb at midnight. I sat alone, Morrison's contract on one side, my father's USB drive on the other. 30 minutes left to decide. My phone lit up, Iris calling for the 5th time. I let it ring. After what Dad and Mom told me at the lake house, I couldn't trust anyone's version of the truth anymore. The door opened. Nolan walked in, looking nothing like the polished executive who'd married my sister. His suit was wrinkled, his confidence replaced by something darker. Don't sign it, he said, dropping into the chair across from me. Why? Because it ruins your plan with Morrison? Because he's lying to you, just like I lied to Iris. He pulled out his phone, playing a recording. Morrison's voice filled the room. Once she signs, destroy everything. The company, the family name, all of it. Make sure Everett watches it burn. Why are you showing me this? Because your sister deserved better than me. Because maybe one of us should do the right thing. Before I could respond, the boardroom doors burst open. Morrison strode in, flanked by 2 men in suits. Behind them, my father struggled against a third man's grip. I'm disappointed, Nolan, Morrison sighed. I thought we had an understanding. Let him go. I stood, but Morrison's men blocked my path. Sign the contract, Lila. Or your father faces fraud charges that'll put him away longer than I was. Don't, Dad's voice was hoarse. Let him do his worst. Morrison laughed. Tell her, Everett. Tell her what really happened to my daughter after you destroyed me. I froze. What daughter? Sarah Morrison, Dad whispered. She was 16 when the scandal hit. She couldn't handle the shame. The bullying. He couldn't finish. She killed herself, Morrison's voice cracked. While I was in prison for crimes your father committed. That's what this is about, Lila. Not money. Not the company. Justice. My phone buzzed one final time. The truth was never about saving the company. It was about saving your soul. Choose wisely. The message was from Mom. Sign it, Nolan suddenly said. Sign it, then open the file marked Sarah on the USB. Morrison's head snapped toward the drive. What file? My hands shook as I connected it to the boardroom's computer. The projector hummed to life, showing a video I hadn't seen before. Sarah Morrison's face filled the screen. Not 16 and tragic, but very much alive. 30-something, speaking directly to the camera. Hello, Dad. If you're watching this, you've gone through with your revenge plan. She smiled sadly. I didn't die. The Hartmans helped me disappear, gave me a new life when you became obsessed with destroying them. I chose to leave. And if you're hurting them now, you're proving I made the right choice." The room fell silent except for Morrison's ragged breathing. "She's lying," he whispered. "This is another trick." "Check the metadata," Nolan said. "The video's 3 days old. Sarah's alive in Vancouver, living under the name you chose for her, Grace Mitchell." Morrison staggered, grabbing the table for support. "All these years? You want justice?" I stood, ripping the contract in half. "Go find your daughter. Leave my family alone." "Lila," Dad warned, but Morrison waved off his men. "You knew," he said to my father. "You knew she was alive, and you let me. I promised her I'd keep her safe. Even from you." Morrison walked out without another word. His men followed, leaving me with Dad and Nolan. "How did you know about the video?" I asked Nolan. "Because I'm the one who helped Sarah make it." He stood to leave. "Tell Iris. Tell her I'm sorry. For everything." My phone buzzed one last time. An unknown number, but not the usual one. "Thank you for keeping your promise, Uncle Everett. I'm ready to come home now." "Sarah." I looked at my father, seeing not the powerful businessman or the manipulative liar, but just a man who'd tried to protect everyone and ended up hurting them instead. "We need to talk," I said. "About everything. No more secrets." He nodded, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "Where do you want to start?" "With the truth. All of it. While we still have a family left to save." The emergency board meeting felt like a powder keg waiting to explode. Every major stakeholder sat around the massive oak table, their faces illuminated by the morning sun streaming through the windows. Dad occupied his usual seat at the head, but his eyes kept darting to the empty chair where Nolan should have been. I stood, my hands steady despite my racing heart. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice." "This better be important," Richard Chun, our biggest investor, growled. "The stock's already down 30%. "It is." I connected my laptop to the projector. "Because everything you think you know about Hartman Industries is wrong." The screen filled with documents, the real numbers, the hidden accounts, everything I'd uncovered. But instead of showing Nolan's deception, I displayed something else. Proof of how Dad had saved the company, again and again, by taking personal risks rather than laying off workers. "My father isn't perfect," I said, meeting his startled gaze. "But everything he did to protect people, including Sarah Morrison." The boardroom doors burst open. Morrison strode in, Sarah beside him. The room erupted in whispers. "What is this?" Dad stood, his face pale. "The truth," Sarah said. "All of it." I clicked to the next slide. Evidence of Morrison's planned hostile takeover, obtained from Nolan's files. Charles Morrison didn't just want revenge. He wanted to strip the company and sell it for parts. Thousands would lose their jobs. "You don't understand," Morrison started, but Sarah cut him off. "No, Dad. You don't understand. The Hartmans didn't destroy our family. Your obsession with revenge did." The boardroom fell silent. I moved to the final slides, my proposal for saving the company. "We can merge Morrison Technologies with Hartman Industries. Equal partnership. Both families working together like you originally planned 30 years ago." "Impossible," Morrison scoffed, but I saw uncertainty in his eyes. "Why?" I challenged. "Because it's harder than revenge? Because it means admitting that both sides made mistakes. Because I don't trust him," Morrison pointed at my father. "Then trust me." Sarah stepped forward. "I'll oversee the merger. Both sides, complete transparency." A commotion at the door drew everyone's attention. Nolan walked in, Iris right behind him. "Sorry I'm late," he said, dropping a thick folder on the table. "But I brought something you all need to see." Inside were documents proving that both companies would fail without the merger. Morrison's revenge plan had already triggered a chain reaction in the market. "We either save both companies," Nolan said, "or we lose everything. Why should we trust you?" Morrison demanded. "Because I'm done lying." Nolan looked at Iris. "To anyone." The room erupted in argument. Board members took sides, threats were made, decades of bitterness bubbled to the surface. I watched it all, seeing the past and future of both families hanging by a thread. "Enough!" My voice cut through the chaos. "This isn't about the past anymore. It's about choosing what kind of future we want to build." I turned to Morrison. "You lost your family because of revenge. Are you really willing to let it happen again?" Then to my father. "And you've spent 30 years trying to protect everyone by keeping secrets. How's that working out?" Finally, to the board. "We have a chance to make this right. Not just the companies, but the families too. What's your vote?" The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Richard Chin raised his hand. I vote yes to the merger. One by one, others followed. Morrison and my father stared at each other across decades of hatred and regret. Sarah will run it? Morrison asked quietly. Dad nodded. With Lila? Together? Then, yes. The tension in the room broke like a fever. As people began discussing details, Dad pulled me aside. When did you become so wise? He asked softly. When I stopped trying to be you, I replied, and started trying to be better. My phone buzzed one last time. Well done. Now the real work begins. Mom! I smiled, watching Sarah and Iris already deep in conversation, while Nolan hung back, uncertainty and hope warring on his face. We'd all chosen truth over revenge, healing over hatred. Now we just had to make it work. 6 months after the merger, I stood in my father's old office, my office now, watching the sunset paint the city skyline. The door opened quietly behind me. Still working late? Mom asked, setting down 2 cups of coffee. Just thinking. I turned to face her. It was you, wasn't it? The anonymous texts. She smiled, that knowing look I'd seen all my life, but never truly understood until now. Someone had to push you toward the truth. Your father was too proud, and I was too afraid. Until I wasn't. The new company logo glowed on my computer screen. Hartman Morrison Industries. Sarah had suggested keeping both names, a reminder that the past shouldn't be erased, just learned from. Have you spoken to Iris? Mom asked carefully. She's in Paris with Nolan. I picked up a photo from my desk, Iris and Nolan at the airport last week, trying again differently this time. Marriage counseling, plus she's photographing his redemption project. The project had been Nolan's idea, using company resources to help families affected by corporate fraud. His way of making amends, supervised by both boards to ensure transparency. And Charles Morrison? Still learning to be a father again. I showed her another photo on my phone, Sarah and Charles at last week's charity gala, awkward but trying. Sarah says he's different when it's just them. Softer. And your father? I glanced at the lake house keys on my desk. Dad had moved there permanently after stepping down, claiming he needed peace and quiet. But we both knew he was giving me space to lead without his shadow. He's teaching me to sail, I said. Well, trying to. Mostly we just talk. About everything. The past. The future. How sometimes protecting people means letting them face the truth, even when it hurts. A knock at the door interrupted us. Richard Chin entered, looking unusually nervous. Sorry to interrupt, but we found something in the old Morrison tech files. He handed me a folder. You need to see this. Inside was evidence of another company, another family, that both our fathers had wronged years ago. History threatening to repeat itself. What are you going to do? Mom asked quietly. I thought about revenge, about justice, about the weight of secrets and the cost of truth. About how breaking cycles matters more than breaking even. I'm going to call Sarah, I said, reaching for my phone. Then I'm going to call this family and offer them a chance to heal. The right way this time. Mom squeezed my hand, understanding in her eyes. When did you become so wise? When I realized wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about being brave enough to face the questions. After they left, I opened my laptop to write an email, not to the board or our shareholders, but to Iris. She'd asked me last week why I stayed, why I kept trying to fix what our parents had broken. Because someone has to break the cycle, I typed. Because every time we choose truth over convenience, healing over revenge, we make it easier for the next generation to do the same. And maybe that's the best legacy we can leave. My phone buzzed one last time, not an anonymous text, but a message from Dad. Sailing lesson tomorrow? There's something I need to tell you. I smiled, thinking about all the truths still waiting to be uncovered, all the healing still to be done. But this time we'd face it together in the light. See you at sunrise, I replied. Looking out at the city again, I saw not just buildings and lights, but stories, thousands of them, interconnected, complicated, waiting to be told. Some were ending, some just beginning. Mine was somewhere in between. The truth hadn't set us free exactly, but it had shown us a better way to be bound together, by choice and courage rather than secrets and fear. And maybe that was enough. I gathered my things, ready to head home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new truths to face. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what we'd find. After all, the best stories aren't about perfect endings. They're about perfect moments to begin again.
I stared at the invitation card in my hands, tracing my fingers over the embossed letters. Another celebration of someone else's perfect life. The thought of spending 3 hours at Jessica's engagement party made my stomach turn, but Megan wouldn't let me skip it. "You need to get out," she'd said, as if emerging from my cocoon of Netflix and takeout would magically fix everything. "You made it." Megan's voice cut through the party's ambient noise. She pulled me into a hug that smelled of expensive perfume and concern. "And you look... well, you're here. Thanks for the ringing endorsement." I smoothed down my black dress, wondering if I should have worn something more colorful. Less funeral chic. "Sophie, honey, you know what I mean." She pressed a glass of wine into my hand. "Just try to enjoy yourself. Talk to people. Who knows? Maybe you'll meet someone interesting. Because that worked out so well last time." The wine tasted bitter, but I drank it anyway. The party swirled around me in a blur of forced laughter and clinking glasses. I found myself drifting toward the edges, watching couples lean into each other, share private jokes, steal quick kisses. Each display of affection felt like a personal attack, a reminder of what I'd lost, or maybe never really had. "You look about as thrilled to be here as I am." I turned to find a man leaning against the wall beside me, his tie slightly loosened, holding a beer like it was a lifeline. Something about his casual disarray made me smile. "That obvious, huh? Well, you've been staring at that plant for 5 minutes like it personally offended you." He gestured toward the potted fern I'd apparently been glaring at. "I'm Ryan." "Sophie." I took another sip of wine. "And that plant did offend me. It's being all green and alive while my succulents keep committing suicide." He laughed, and something in my chest loosened slightly. "Aw, a serial plant killer. Should I be concerned?" "Only if you're photosynthetic." The conversation flowed easier than I expected. Ryan worked in IT, loved terrible sci-fi movies, and had strong opinions about pineapple on pizza. He didn't ask why I was alone at the party, didn't try to fill every silence with meaningless chatter. It felt comfortable. "Want to get out of here?" he asked after our third drink. "There's a great burger place around the corner. Real food, no tiny appetizers that leave you hunting for crumbs." I hesitated. Megan's warning voice echoed in my head, "Too soon, Sophie. Give yourself time to heal." But Ryan's smile held no pressure, no hidden agenda. Just a simple invitation to escape this suffocating parade of happiness. "You know what?" "Yes." I set down my empty glass. "Lead the way." As we slipped out of the party, I caught Megan's eye across the room. She raised an eyebrow, and I gave her a small wave. Later, she'd demand details, worry about my judgment, remind me of all the reasons I shouldn't jump into anything new. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was making a mistake. But watching Ryan navigate through the crowded streets, pointing out ridiculous shop names and making up stories about passing strangers, I felt something I hadn't in months: possibility. I didn't know then that this moment, this simple decision to follow a stranger into the night, would set in motion events that would shatter my world all over again. That Ryan's easy smile concealed depths I couldn't begin to imagine. That sometimes the most dangerous traps are the ones that feel like escape routes. But that night, I just wanted to feel something other than broken. And Ryan, he was very good at making things feel whole again. At least for a while. 6 months flew by like a highlight reel of perfect moments. Ryan and I fell into an easy rhythm, late-night conversations that stretched until dawn, spontaneous road trips to nowhere. Inside jokes that made strangers stare when we burst out laughing in public. He had a way of making everything feel lighter, more vibrant. "You're different," Megan said over coffee one morning. "Happier." But what? I stirred my latte, watching the foam swirl. "I don't know. Sometimes the way he looks at you. It's like he's memorizing you. Like he's afraid you'll disappear. I laughed it off, but her words stuck with me. Maybe because I'd noticed it too, those moments when Ryan's smile would fade, and something darker would flicker across his face. But then he'd pull me close, whisper something ridiculous in my ear, and the moment would pass. The night he proposed, we were arguing about pizza toppings. Pineapple is an abomination, he declared, waving a slice like a conductor's baton. It's a violation of natural law. Says the man who puts ranch dressing on everything. That's different. He set down his pizza, suddenly serious. You know what else is different? The way you've changed everything in my life. Before I could process the shift in conversation, he was on one knee, holding out a ring that caught the dim light of my kitchen. Marry me, Sophie. Be my partner in crime, my fellow pizza critic, my... Yes, I interrupted, my heart racing. Yes to everything except the anti-pineapple agenda. The ring slid onto my finger perfectly. Too perfectly, I'd realize later. As if he'd planned this moment down to the smallest detail. That night, lying in bed, Ryan traced patterns on my arm. We should meet my mother, he said quietly. She'll want to help with the wedding. Of course. I turned to face him. Tell me about her. His hand stilled. She's traditional. Protective. Dad left when I was young, so it was just us for a long time. Something in his voice made me prop myself up on an elbow. You don't talk about her much. Not much to say. He pulled me back down, nuzzling my neck. She'll love you. Everyone loves you. Meeting Linda Carter was like walking into a time capsule. Her house was immaculate, every surface gleaming, every photo frame perfectly aligned. She hugged me with practiced warmth. So lovely to finally meet you, she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Ryan's told me so much. All good things, I hope. I laughed, but it felt hollow in the pristine living room. Of course. She patted Ryan's cheek as she passed. My boy only sees the good in people. It's his greatest strength. And sometimes his greatest weakness. Ryan tensed beside me. I felt his fingers twitch against my back. Over dinner, Linda dominated the conversation, peppering me with questions about my family, my job, my plans for children. Each answer seemed to disappoint her slightly. Marketing. She raised an eyebrow. Such an unstable field these days. And you travel for work. Sometimes, I admitted. But Ryan needs stability, she cut in. Structure. After everything with his father. Mother. Ryan's voice carried a warning edge I'd never heard before. I'm just saying, dear. She reached across the table, straightening his collar with practiced fingers. We have to be careful, don't we? The drive home was silent. I watched Ryan's knuckles whiten on the steering wheel. I'm sorry about her, he finally said. She means well. It's fine. I touched his arm. She loves you. He laughed, but it sounded wrong. Yeah. She does. That night, I caught him staring at his phone, thumbs hovering over the keyboard. When he noticed me watching, he quickly locked the screen. Work stuff, he said, too casually. Tom needs help with a project. I nodded, ignoring the knot forming in my stomach. Later, I'd remember this moment as the first crack in our perfect story, the instant when doubt crept in like a shadow at sunset. Subtle but undeniable. But for now, I curled into his side, breathing in his familiar scent, telling myself that love was enough. That some stories really do have happy endings. I was wrong about that too. The dishes had been sitting in the sink for 3 days. 3 days of walking past them, of watching Ryan grab clean mugs from the cabinet while dirty ones festered below. I'd stopped counting how many times I'd asked him to help with housework. His promises had become as stale as the coffee rings in those abandoned cups. "I thought you were going to handle those," I said, watching him scroll through his phone on the couch. Later. He didn't look up. "I'm dealing with a work crisis." The same excuse he'd used yesterday. And the day before. I picked up his discarded socks from the floor, fighting the urge to throw them at his head. "Tom needs help with the server migration," he added, as if reading my thoughts. "It's important. More important than our agreement about sharing responsibilities." He finally looked up, his expression shifting into that wounded puppy look I'd once found endearing. "Come on, Sophie. You know how crazy work's been lately. And my work isn't crazy. I managed to do laundry between client calls yesterday. That's different." He set down his phone. "You're just better at this stuff. More organized." The word hit me like a slap. Better at it? Or just more willing to do it while you play helpless? "I'm not playing anything." His voice took on that edge I'd been hearing more frequently. "Why are you making such a big deal about dishes?" "Because it's not about the dishes." The words exploded out of me. "It's about respect. About being partners instead of me being your replacement mother." His face darkened. "Don't bring my mother into this." "Why not? She's already here in every other way." I gestured at the living room, where he'd arranged the furniture exactly as Linda had suggested. "God forbid we make any decision without consulting her first. She's trying to help." He stood up, towering over me. "Unlike some people, who just criticize everything I do. When do you do anything?" The words tasted bitter. "Besides work and text Tom at all hours." Something flickered across his face, guilt. Fear. But it vanished so quickly I might have imagined it. "I need some air." He grabbed his keys. "Call Linda if you want help cleaning. She'd love to show you how it's done properly." The door slammed behind him. I stood in the silence, surrounded by evidence of his passive presence: half-empty water glasses, abandoned charging cables. A trail of emotional breadcrumbs leading nowhere. My phone buzzed. "Megan. How's married bliss?" she asked when I answered. "Remember when you said something felt off about Ryan?" "Which time?" I sank onto the couch. "He's different now. Or maybe he's exactly the same and I'm finally seeing it clearly." "What happened?" "Nothing. Everything." I picked at a loose thread on the cushion, another task Ryan had promised to fix. "It's like living with a ghost who leaves dirty dishes instead of rattling chains." "Have you talked to him about it?" "I've tried. He either deflects or runs to Linda." The thread came loose in my hand. "Did I tell you she called yesterday to remind me about his favorite breakfast? Apparently, I'm not cooking his eggs right." "Jesus." Megan paused. "Sophie, remember what happened with Mark? How you kept making excuses for him until..." "This is different," I cut her off, even as doubt gnawed at my certainty. "Ryan's not Mark. He's just struggling with something. And you're not his therapist." Her voice softened. "Or his mother, no matter what Linda thinks." After we hung up, I wandered into the kitchen. The dishes seemed to mock me, a porcelain monument to broken promises. I reached for the sponge, then stopped. Instead, I took a photo of the mess and sent it to Ryan with a simple message: "Either these are done when I get home from work tomorrow, or we need to have a serious conversation about our future." His response came hours later, Sorry. Got caught up with Tom. We'll handle it tomorrow. I stared at those words until they blurred, remembering how he used to send me random messages throughout the day. Jokes, heart emojis. Pictures of dogs he saw on his lunch break. When had Tom become more important than us? The answer would come soon enough, though not in any way I could have predicted. Sometimes the biggest betrayals hide in the smallest details, like dishes in a sink. Or late-night texts to a coworker who isn't really a coworker at all. The credit card statement arrived on a Tuesday. I almost missed it among the usual bills and junk mail, but Ryan's nervous glance as I opened the envelope caught my attention. $300 at La Maison, that upscale French restaurant downtown. Another $200 at Jensen's Jewelers. Dates I'd been working late, supposedly while he was debugging with Tom. Want to explain these charges? I slid the statement across the kitchen counter. He barely glanced at it. Work expenses. I'll get reimbursed. Funny. I called your office yesterday about the company holiday party. Sharon said you haven't submitted an expense report in months. The color drained from his face. You called my office. After you missed another couples therapy session. I watched him fidget with his wedding ring. Tom covered for you. Said you were in a meeting. Except you told me you were working from home that day. Sophie. Don't. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Just tell me who she is. There's no one. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. You're being paranoid. Like your mother when. Don't you dare bring my mother into this. The rage surprised me with its intensity. You lost that right when you started lying to my face. His phone buzzed on the counter. We both stared at it. The preview notification showed a message from Tom, and wants to know if you're still on for. Ryan lunged for the phone, but I was faster. The full message burned into my brain, and wants to know if you're still on for dinner. She's wearing that dress you liked. It's not what you think. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. Emily's just a friend from work. Tom's friend, actually. We're all just friends. I laughed at the sound sharp enough to make him flinch. Is that what you told Linda too? Something dark flashed across his face. Leave my mother out of this. Why? She's already involved, isn't she? The pieces were falling into place. All those Sunday brunches when I was traveling for work. Those long phone calls about your childhood memories. She's been covering for you this whole time. She's protecting me. His voice cracked. She understands that sometimes people make mistakes. Mistakes. I held up the credit card statement. This isn't a mistake, Ryan. This is a choice. Multiple choices, made over and over. He slumped against the counter, suddenly looking smaller. I never meant to hurt you. That's the problem. You never mean to do anything. Things just happen to you, right? Poor Ryan, always the victim, never responsible. His phone buzzed again. Another message from Tom. Emily's getting impatient. Should I tell her you're not coming? Tell her yourself. I tossed the phone at him. I'm sure she'll understand. She probably knows all about your mother's protection by now. Sophie, please. He caught my arm as I turned to leave. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll. Let go of me. My voice was ice. Or I'll call Linda right now and tell her exactly why her perfect son is about to lose another relationship. He released me like I'd burned him. We stood there, the kitchen counter between us like a battlefield, years of lies and enabling scattered like shrapnel. I'm staying at Megan's tonight. I grabbed my keys. Don't call me. Don't text me. And definitely don't send Tom to make excuses for you. At the door, I paused. You know what's funny? I actually felt guilty for suspecting you. For thinking you might be like Mark. Turns out you're worse. At least he had the decency to admit what he was. I love you, he whispered. No, Ryan. You love the idea of me. The perfect wife who'd never question you, never challenge you. Just like Linda taught you to expect. I left him standing there, surrounded by the evidence of his betrayal. My phone lit up with notifications, Linda's number, then Tom's, then Ryan's. I blocked them all. Later, Megan would ask if I was okay. I'd tell her I was fine, but the truth was more complicated. I wasn't just hurt or angry. I was awakening to a cold, clear rage that demanded more than just walking away. Ryan and Linda had written this story together. Now it was my turn to write the ending. The house was spotless when I returned from my business trip. Not just tidy, sanitized. Every surface gleamed, every pillow sat at a perfect angle, like a showroom waiting for potential buyers. The air smelled of lemon cleaner and lies. My suitcase wheels echoed on the hardwood as I moved through our staged perfection. A woman's scarf lay coiled on the entry table, not mine. Designer label. The kind Ryan always said we couldn't afford. I picked it up, the silk sliding through my fingers like water. Like truth. My phone buzzed. Linda. Sophie, dear. Ryan mentioned you were coming home today. I thought we could have dinner. Whose scarf is this? My voice sounded foreign, distant. A pause. Too long. What scarf? The Hermes scarf on my entry table. The one that costs more than our monthly mortgage. Oh. Another pause. I must have left it when I came to help Ryan straighten up. He mentioned you like things. Particular. The lie hung between us, as delicate as the scarf in my hands. Funny. The receipt still attached. Dated yesterday. Sophie. I ended the call, letting the silence wash over me. In the kitchen, a wine glass sat in the dish rack, lipstick stains in a shade I'd never wear. The garbage was empty, but a crumpled receipt by the can caught my eye. La Maison again. Dinner for two, last night. My phone lit up with Ryan's face. I let it ring. The bedroom door creaked open. Everything was perfect here too, fresh sheets, hospital corners, his dress shirts hanging with military precision. But the air felt wrong. Perfumed. The bathroom counter held the final evidence, a long dark hair caught in my hairbrush. Mine were blonde. Ryan's key turned in the lock downstairs. I heard him calling my name, his footsteps on the stairs. I sat on our perfectly made bed, holding the brush like a weapon. Sophie. You're home early. He appeared in the doorway, tie loosened, smile faltering as he saw my face. I was going to pick you up from the airport. Like you picked up Emily last night. The name hit him like a physical blow. Who? Please. I stood, brush still in hand. Don't insult what's left of us with more lies. It's not, he stopped, seeing the scarf dangling from my other hand. I can explain. Can you explain the wine glass? The receipt. The fucking Hermes scarf that costs more than you said we could afford for my birthday. You don't understand. He stepped forward. I stepped back. Emily's going through a rough time. Her husband. Is she married too? The laugh that escaped me sounded hysterical. Did Linda help you pick her out? Someone suitably broken for you to fix. Leave my mother out of this. Why? She's already in it. Up to her enabling neck. I threw the scarf at him. Did she help you clean up too? Make everything perfect before the wife came home. His face changed, something dark and familiar crossing it. You're being hysterical. Just like when. When what? When I suspected something was wrong. When I asked why you were working late every Thursday. When I wondered why Tom suddenly couldn't look me in the eye. Each question landed like a blow. He retreated, back hitting the doorframe. Sophie, please. We can work through this. I'll go to counseling. Stop. My voice cracked. Just stop pretending you want to fix this. You had months to fix it. Years. His phone buzzed in his pocket. We both froze. Answer it, I said. It's probably Emily, wondering why you're late for dinner. I love you, he whispered. No. I placed the hairbrush carefully on the dresser, aligning it perfectly with the edge. You love having someone to blame when things go wrong. Someone to clean up after. Someone to lie to. I walked past him, down the stairs, through the pristine rooms that had never really been ours. Behind me, his phone kept buzzing, a persistent reminder of promises about to be broken. Outside, the evening air felt clean. Real. I got in my car, hands steady on the wheel, and called Megan. I need your help, I said when she answered. I need to destroy him. The silence on the other end wasn't judgment. It was understanding. Come over, she said. We'll make a plan. The divorce papers sat between us like a landmine. Ryan's lawyer kept glancing at his phone while mine reviewed the terms one last time. The conference room felt too small, too sterile for the death of a marriage. Mrs. Carter, if you'll sign here. Miller, I corrected. I'm keeping my name. Ryan flinched. Good. His signature came first, practiced, perfect, just like his lies. I watched the pen move across the page, remembering how he'd signed our marriage license with that same flourish. When it was my turn, I made my signature sharp, angular. A weapon. There's one more thing. I pulled out a USB drive. Evidence of financial misconduct at Carter Technologies. Ryan's head snapped up. What? Interesting emails between you and the accounting department. Creative expense reports. That sort of thing. His lawyer leaned forward. Miss Miller, if you're attempting to blackmail. Not blackmail. Insurance. I slid the drive across the table. Everything's already backed up. I just thought Ryan should know what I found while cleaning our perfect house. The color drained from Ryan's face. You wouldn't. Like you wouldn't sleep with Emily. Like you wouldn't let your mother orchestrate our entire marriage. Sophie, please. His voice cracked. Think about what this would do to the company. To my career. I have. For 3 weeks, 4 days, and, I checked my watch, 6 hours. About as long as you thought about our marriage before destroying it. His lawyer whispered something urgent. Ryan ignored him. What do you want? Nothing. I stood, smoothing my skirt. Consider it a parting gift. A reminder that perfect facades crack eventually. Outside, Megan waited in her car. How'd it go? He signed. I buckled my seatbelt, hands shaking. And I gave him the drive. Empty. Loaded. Every fraudulent expense report, every manipulated budget. 3 years of creative accounting, all tied to his employee ID. Jesus. Megan pulled into traffic. What if he goes to the police? With what evidence? An empty threat from his bitter ex-wife. I laughed, but it sounded hollow. Besides, Linda would never let him risk the family reputation. My phone buzzed. Linda's number. "You vindictive little," she started. "Careful, Linda. Wouldn't want to say something unladylike. He trusted you. And I trusted him. Funny how that worked out. I'll destroy you." Her voice trembled with rage. "I'll make sure you never work in this town again." I cut her off. "Check your email. I sent you something interesting about Ryan's special project fund. The one that paid for Emily's gifts." The line went dead. Megan glanced over. "You okay?" "No." My voice broke. I thought this would feel better. Like winning. It's not about winning anymore, is it? I don't know what it's about. I stared out the window, watching the city blur past. I keep waiting to feel something besides empty. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Sophie. A woman's voice, familiar from voicemails I'd found. "It's Emily. We need to talk." The world tilted sideways. About what? About Ryan. About what he did to both of us. She paused. "And about what he's planning to do now." "What do you mean?" "He's not who we thought he was. Either of us." Her voice shook. "Meet me at La Maison tonight. 7 o'clock. Come alone." The line went dead before I could respond. Megan pulled over. "Who was that?" "Emily." I showed her the call log. "She wants to meet." "It's a trap." "Probably." I closed my eyes, remembering the perfect house, the perfect lies. But what if it's not? "Sophie. I need to know." I opened my eyes, decision made. "Drop me at my apartment. I'll take my own car." "This isn't how revenge is supposed to work," Megan said softly. "Maybe it's not about revenge anymore." I touched the divorce papers in my bag. Maybe it's about truth. The truth, I'd learn later, was far worse than any revenge I could have planned. But sitting there, watching the city lights come on, I still believed in answers. In closure. In the possibility that understanding why might hurt less than not knowing it all. I was wrong about that too. Emily wasn't at La Maison. Instead, I found Megan waiting at the bar, her face ashen. "Ryan's in the hospital," she said before I could speak. "Psychiatric hold." "He tried to," she stopped, hands trembling around her wine glass. The world tilted sideways. "When?" "An hour ago. Tom found him in the office." She pulled out her phone, showing me a text. "He left notes. For you, Linda. Emily." My revenge fantasy crumbled like ash in my mouth. "Is he stable?" "But Sophie, there's more." She glanced around the restaurant. "Emily's there too. She's been admitted for 3 days." The pieces clicked together with nauseating clarity. They're in the same facility. Different wings. She. Megan hesitated. "She tried to leave him last week. He didn't take it well." The drive to Riverside Psychiatric Center felt endless. Security checked my ID twice before letting me through. The hall smelled of industrial cleaner and despair. Emily sat in the common room, wearing hospital scrubs, her designer confidence stripped away. Purple bruises ringed her wrist. "He said I was just like you," she said when I sat down. "Strong. Independent. In need of fixing." "Did he hurt you?" "Not physically. Not at first." She touched her wrist. "He just got in my head." Made me doubt everything. Then when I tried to leave. Emily. Linda's voice cut through the room like a blade. She stood in the doorway, perfectly coiffed even here. What lies are you telling now? The truth, I said, standing. For once, let's all tell the truth. Linda's mask cracked. You did this. Both of you. You pushed him too hard, expected too much. We expected basic human decency, Emily snapped. Not to be manipulated, gaslit, controlled. He loves deeply. Too deeply sometimes. Linda's voice wavered. After his father left. Stop. I stepped closer. Just stop. This isn't about his father. Or us. It's about you. How dare you? You taught him this. The words burned like acid. Taught him to manipulate, to play victim, to blame everyone else. And when that didn't work, you cleaned up his messes. Like the restraining order his college girlfriend filed. The complaints at his last job. Linda went white. How did you? I'm good at research. Better at revenge. I pulled out my phone, showing her the documents. But this isn't revenge anymore. It's intervention. He needs help, Emily added softly. Real help. Not enablers. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Miss Miller. Mr. Carter's asking for you. Linda moved to follow. I blocked her path. No. For once, you're going to let him face consequences. Ryan looked small in the hospital bed, wrists bandaged, eyes hollow. When he saw me, something flickered across his face, shame. Relief. Fear. I'm sorry, he whispered. I know. I didn't mean. You never do. I sat in the visitor's chair. That's the problem, Ryan. You never mean to hurt anyone. You just do. Help me. His voice cracked. Please. Like you always do. No. The word felt like freedom. I'm not here to help you. Or hurt you. I'm here to say goodbye. Sophie. Emily's down the hall. I watched him flinch. She's not helping you either. Neither is Linda. Tears slid down his face. Then why are you here? Because someone needs to tell you the truth. You're not the victim here. You're not the hero. You're just a man who never learned to take responsibility for his actions. I love you, he tried. No. You love the idea of being loved. There's a difference. I stood. Get help, Ryan. Real help. Not for me, not for Emily, not for Linda. For yourself. At the door, I paused. I'm sending copies of everything, the financial records, the restraining orders, everything, to the hospital staff. They need to know what they're dealing with. That's your revenge. His laugh sounded broken. More exposure. No. My revenge was letting you face yourself. I met his eyes one last time. Goodbye, Ryan. In the hallway, Emily and Linda waited, two women broken by the same man in different ways. We looked at each other, understanding passing between us without words. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about truth. And sometimes truth is the hardest revenge of all. The letter arrived on a crisp autumn morning, hand-delivered to my office. Ryan's precise handwriting on the envelope made my fingers tremble as I opened it. Inside, a single page filled with words I'd once longed to hear. I'm starting to understand what you meant about facing myself. The doctors say I'm making progress. Mother hasn't visited in weeks, her choice, not mine. Maybe that's progress too. Emily dropped the charges. She's stronger than either of us knew. Like you. I keep thinking about that night we met, how you said you'd never trust anyone again. I made you break that promise to yourself. I'm sorry for that most of all. I folded the letter, tucking it into my desk drawer without responding. Outside my window, the city sprawled beneath gray skies, unchanged yet completely different from the view I'd had when this all began. My phone buzzed. Megan. You busy? She asked. Emily's downstairs. My heart stuttered. Here. She wants to talk. About the support group. The elevator ride felt endless. Emily waited in the lobby, looking both familiar and strange, stronger, somehow. Scarred but standing. I'm starting one, she said without preamble. A support group. For women like us. Like us. The ones who survived men like Ryan. And women like Linda. She pulled out a business card. We meet Thursdays. If you're interested. I studied the card. Why me? Because you did what I couldn't. You saw through him without losing yourself. She touched her wrist, where the bruises had faded but the memory hadn't. And because sometimes revenge isn't enough. Sometimes we need to turn it into something else. My phone buzzed again. Linda's number. Take it, Emily said. I'll wait. Linda's voice sounded older, tired. Ryan's being released next week. I know. The letter's weight pressed against my desk upstairs. He wants to see you. No. A pause. Sophie. You don't get to ask me for anything anymore, Linda. Neither does he. He's changed. Maybe. But I have too. I watched Emily through the lobby windows, her reflection overlapping with mine. Goodbye, Linda. I hung up before she could respond. She still thinks she can fix him, Emily said when I returned. She can't. No. Emily smiled sadly. But maybe we can fix what he broke in us. Upstairs, I pulled out Ryan's letter again. Below it in the drawer lay the evidence I'd gathered, financial records, restraining orders, a history of manipulation carefully documented. My perfect revenge, never used. Megan appeared in my doorway. You okay? I thought revenge would feel like winning. I held up the letter. But this feels better. What does? Living well. I dropped the letter in the shredder, watching it disappear. Moving forward. The support group. I picked up Emily's card. Maybe. But first, I need to do something. The storage unit felt smaller than I remembered. Boxes of our shared life waited in neat rows, photos, wedding gifts, memories carefully preserved. I'd kept them out of spite, thinking someday I'd want to remember. Now, watching the donation truck load them up, I felt lighter with each box that disappeared. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. Thank you. For showing me the truth. I deleted it without responding. Some truths don't need acknowledgement. Some revenge is better left unfinished, transforming into something else entirely. Outside, Emily waited in her car. Ready? For what? The future. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. It's Thursday. I got in, leaving the storage unit and its ghosts behind. We drove through the city, past La Maison, past the house Ryan and I had shared, past all the places where I'd lost and found myself. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply living, breathing, moving forward. Sometimes it's helping others do the same. And sometimes, in the end, that's enough.
Success tastes like vanilla lip gloss and overpriced airport coffee. I'm riding that high, my presentation deck still hot in my laptop bag, the deal I just closed worth more than Jake makes in 2 years. The taxi cuts through evening traffic, and I practice different ways to tell him about the promotion. Maybe this time he'll actually smile. My phone buzzes. Rachel's text reads, "You crushed it, boss lady. Drinks tomorrow?" I type back a quick hell yes before shoving the phone in my purse. The house comes into view, dark except for the bedroom window. Strange. Jake's car is in the driveway, but he usually leaves every light on like he's signaling aircraft. The front door creaks, another thing he promised to fix months ago. "Jake? I'm home early. Got some amazing news." Silence answers. Then shuffling upstairs. My heels click against the hardwood as I climb the stairs, each step matching my heartbeat. The bedroom door is ajar, spilling yellow light into the hallway. I push it open. Jake stands by our bed, my clothes scattered across it like fallen leaves. An open suitcase sits in the middle of the chaos. "What are you doing?" My voice comes out smaller than I intended. He doesn't turn around, just keeps folding my favorite blazer with mechanical precision. "What does it look like?" "It looks like you're packing my things without asking me first." I step closer, grab the blazer from his hands. "Stop that. Talk to me." Finally, he faces me. His eyes are red-rimmed, but his voice is steady. "I can't do this anymore, Kiara. This. Pretending we're equals when we both know you've left me in the dust." "What are you talking about?" "I just closed the biggest deal of my career, and instead of celebrating with me, you're what, throwing me out?" "See? That's exactly it." He laughs, but it sounds wrong, like breaking glass. "Every conversation circles back to your career, your success, your fucking achievements. When's the last time you asked about my day? My promotion that I didn't get? Again?" I reach for his arm. He steps back. "Jake, I don't." He holds up a hand. "Just don't. You know what Derek said to me yesterday? He said, 'Man, your wife's killing it. Not us. Not you and me. Just you.' Do you have any idea how that feels?" The room spins slightly. I grab the bedpost to steady myself, my knuckles white against the dark wood. "So this is about your ego? Because I'm successful? This is about respect." He slams the suitcase shut, making me jump. About being able to look my friends in the eye without wondering if they're pitying me. About not feeling like a fucking failure in my own home. "I never made you feel that way. You didn't have to." His voice drops to a whisper. "Your existence does it for you." The words hit like a physical blow. I sink onto the edge of the bed, crushing something underneath me. Pulling it out, I recognize the pregnancy test I took this morning. Positive. The one I was going to surprise him with after sharing my promotion news. Jake follows my gaze, sees what I'm holding. For a moment, his face crumples. Then it hardens again, like cement setting. "Perfect timing," he says, each word dripping with venom. "Now you can be the breadwinner and the mother. The complete package. Who needs me at all?" I stand up, my legs shaking but my voice steady. "You're right. Who needs you?" The test falls from my hand, clattering on the floor between us like a gauntlet thrown. Neither of us moves to pick it up. "I'll be at my mother's," I say, grabbing my purse. "Send my things there." "And Jake? Congratulations. You just made the biggest mistake of your life." I walk out, leaving him standing in a graveyard of designer suits and shattered dreams. My hands don't shake until I'm in the taxi, watching our house disappear in the rearview mirror. Only then do I allow myself to smile, thinking about all the ways I'm going to make him regret this moment. 3 months into the pregnancy, and my mother's guest room feels more like home than the house Jake and I built together. The morning sickness has finally eased, leaving room for a different kind of nausea, the kind that comes from watching your husband pretend everything's fine on social media while he's busy erasing you from his life. He posted another photo with Derek at that new steakhouse, Rachel says, scrolling through her phone during our lunch break. Caption reads, "Living my best life. What a piece of work." I stab at my salad, imagining each cherry tomato is Jake's inflated ego. Let him play happy bachelor. We both know he's dying inside. Speaking of dying, Rachel lowers her voice. The board approved your proposal for the Asian market expansion. Jake's company was counting on that contract. The lettuce suddenly tastes sweeter. You're sure? 100%. Derek let it slip to marketing that Jake's team had already started hiring people for the project. Now they'll have to let them go. My hand instinctively moves to my growing belly. The baby kicks, as if approving my silent satisfaction. The elevator dings, and I spot Linda from HR heading our way. She's wearing that expression that means trouble, the one that makes her look like she's sucking on a lemon. "Kiara, do you have a moment?" Her voice carries across the break room. "It's about your maternity leave paperwork." In her office, Linda slides a form across her desk. "Jake called. He's requesting to be removed as your emergency contact and insurance beneficiary." The paper blurs before my eyes. "He what?" I know this is delicate. But given your situation, we need to update your file. And she hesitates. "He mentioned you might be leaving the company soon?" My laugh comes out sharp enough to cut glass. "Did he now?" He seemed quite certain about it. "Said you'd discussed focusing on family full-time." I lean forward, both hands flat on her desk. "Linda, let me be crystal clear. The only thing I'm leaving is my marriage. This company, my career, that's not negotiable." That evening, I find my mother in her garden, attacking weeds with the same intensity I'd shown that salad. She looks up when my shadow falls across her work. "Jake called here too," she says, not bothering with hello. "Wanted to know if you'd come to your senses yet." And? I told him the only sense you've come to is the good kind. She sits back on her heels, studying my face. "He's scared, you know. Men like that, when they lose control. They lash out," I finish. "Try to take whatever power they can grab." Exactly. She pulls off her gardening gloves. "Which is why you need to be smarter. Stronger. More calculated than he is." My phone buzzes, a text from Jake, "We need to talk about the house. And the baby. Stop avoiding me." "I'm not avoiding anything," I mutter, typing back, "Lawyer." Everything goes through the lawyer. "He's at the door," my mother says suddenly, peering through the kitchen window. Speaking of avoiding. I hear his knock, then his voice, "Kiara. I know you're in there. We have to discuss this like adults." My mother moves to answer, but I catch her arm. "No. Let him stand there. Let him feel what it's like to be shut out." We sit in the darkened kitchen, listening to his increasingly aggressive knocks. Finally, his voice cracks, "Please. I made a mistake. I can't stand feeling this way." The baby kicks again, harder this time. I press my hand against the spot, remembering how he couldn't even look at the pregnancy test that night. "That's the thing about mistakes, Jake," I whisper, though he can't hear me through the door. "They have consequences." His footsteps eventually fade. My mother switches on the light, her face a mix of pride and concern. "You're not just protecting yourself anymore," she says, nodding at my belly. "No, I agree, already planning my next move. I'm protecting both of us. And I'm going to make sure he never forgets that." Through the window, I watch his car disappear into the darkness, knowing tomorrow will bring another battle. But this time, I'm ready. This time, I'm not the one who'll end up losing everything. The coffee shop across from Jake's office wasn't my usual scene, but it offered the perfect vantage point. I'd been sitting here for an hour, watching Derek's familiar figure pace outside, phone pressed to his ear. The conversation seemed heated, even from this distance. My own phone buzzed, Rachel's daily check-in. "You sure about this? Spying isn't exactly your style." I typed back, "Not spying. Gathering intelligence." The baby shifted restlessly, as if sensing my tension. At 6 months, she was becoming quite the accomplice in my surveillance missions. I rubbed my belly, whispering, "Just a little longer, sweetheart." Derek finally ended his call and headed inside. I pulled my baseball cap lower, angling my laptop screen to hide my face. He ordered, then slumped into a booth behind me. "Jake, man, you need to get it together." Another call. The board's asking questions about the project delays. "Yeah, I know it's her fault, but you can't keep telling people she sabotaged it. It looks desperate." My fingers tightened around my cup. Sabotage? That was new. "Listen," Derek continued, his voice dropping. "People are starting to talk. They're saying you're obsessed, that you're letting your personal shit affect your judgment. The Asian market deal? That wasn't her fault. We lost it fair and square." A pause. Then, "No, I'm not taking her side. I'm trying to save your ass before you get fired. You really think telling everyone your pregnant wife stole your clients is a good look?" My hand shook as I reached for my phone, opening the voice recorder app. This was better than I'd hoped. "The drinking has to stop too," Derek added. "Coming to work hungover, missing meetings. Jesus, Jake, you're doing her work for her. She doesn't need revenge when you're self-destructing this spectacularly." I almost felt sorry for Derek. Almost. But he'd enabled Jake's behavior for months, playing the sympathetic friend while watching him spiral. The chair behind me scraped as Derek stood. "Fine. Don't listen. But when everything falls apart, remember I warned you." I waited until he left before gathering my things. Outside, the autumn air carried the scent of wood smoke and possibilities. My lawyer would be very interested in this recording. Back at my mother's, I found her in the kitchen with an unexpected visitor. Rachel sat at the counter, clutching a manila envelope. "What's wrong?" I asked, noting their expressions. Rachel slid the envelope toward me. "HR forwarded this to my desk by mistake. It's an email chain between Jake and your company's biggest competitors. He's been trying to warn them away from working with you." My hands trembled as I read. Phrases jumped out: unstable behavior, professional concerns, liability risks. Each word was carefully chosen to cast doubt. To poison potential clients against me without making direct accusations. "He's trying to destroy my career," I whispered. All while playing victim at his own company. My mother's face hardened. "He's trying to make you dependent. Vulnerable. Classic abuser tactics." "No," I said, straightening. "He's giving me exactly what I need. Proof." I pulled out my phone, playing Derek's recorded conversation. Rachel's eyes widened. "Holy shit," she breathed. "With this and the emails? We can prove harassment," I finished. "Professional sabotage. And when the baby comes, he won't have a leg to stand on," my mother concluded, a fierce pride in her voice. My phone lit up with Jake's number. "For the first time in weeks," I answered. "Missing me?" I kept my voice honey sweet. "Kiara, please." He sounded desperate. "I need you to call off whatever you're doing. My job. Everything's falling apart." Funny how that happens when you try to destroy someone else's life. I never Save it for the lawyers, Jake. And maybe next time, don't put your sabotage attempts in writing. The silence on his end was deafening. Finally, he whispered, "You knew?" "I know everything." I ended the call, feeling the baby kick approvingly. And this is just the beginning. Rachel and my mother exchanged looks. They knew that tone, the one that meant I wasn't just fighting back anymore. I was going for the kill. The pregnancy books never mentioned how revenge could make morning sickness worse. 7 months along, and I'm bent over my mother's toilet, heaving up bile and regret after reading Jake's latest email to my clients. Each word a carefully crafted poison, designed to make me look unstable, unreliable, unworthy of their trust. My phone vibrates against the tile floor. Rachel's text reads, "Board meeting in 30. They're discussing your accounts. Jake's brother-in-law is making waves." Of course. I'd forgotten about Michael on the board. Family loyalty runs deep, especially when there's money involved. The doorbell rings as I'm rinsing my mouth. Through the bathroom window, I spot Derek's car in the driveway. My mother's voice drifts up the stairs, polite but steel-edged. "She's not receiving visitors." "Please," Derek's voice cracks. 5 minutes. "It's about Jake." I crack the door open, catching their conversation. He's drinking at work now. Heaping a bottle in his desk. Yesterday he screamed at an intern until she cried, all because she mentioned Kiara's marketing campaign. "That sounds like Jake's problem," my mother says. "He's going to lose everything. The company's building a case for termination." I thought. Maybe if Kiara talked to him. I step into view, one hand cradling my belly. "So I can save him? Again? Like I've been doing our entire marriage?" Derek startles, taking in my appearance. "Jesus, Kiara. You look pregnant? Exhausted? Like someone whose husband is trying to destroy her career while drinking himself into oblivion?" He has the decency to look ashamed. He's sick. He needs help. And I need to protect my daughter. I descend the stairs slowly, deliberately. "Did you know he's been contacting my clients? Spreading rumors about my mental state? Using his brother-in-law to undermine me at board meetings?" Derek pales. "That's not. He wouldn't." I pull out my phone, playing the recording from the coffee shop. His own voice fills the room, confirming Jake's spiral. Then I show him the emails. "Still want to defend him?" "I came here to help," he whispers. "No. You came here to ease your guilt. You watched him self-destruct for months. Helped him hide it. Now that there are consequences, you want me to clean up his mess?" The baby kicks hard, making me wince. Derek reaches out instinctively, then pulls back when my mother steps between us. "I have proof of everything," I continue. The harassment, the sabotage, the drinking. One call to HR and his career is over. "Is that what you want?" "What do you want?" he counters. The question hits harder than expected. What do I want? Revenge? Justice? Peace? My phone buzzes again. "Rachel, board voted. They're freezing your accounts pending investigation into concerns raised about your stability." The room tilts slightly. My mother grabs my arm, steadying me. "I want him to feel what I'm feeling right now," I say finally. The helplessness. The betrayal. The knowledge that someone you trusted is systematically destroying everything you've built. "He'll lose everything," Derek pleads. Good. I meet his gaze. Because that's exactly what he deserves. After Derek leaves, my mother helps me to the couch. "You're shaking." I'm angry. I press my hands against my belly, feeling my daughter's movements. He's forcing my hand. If I don't act now, I'll lose everything I've worked for. My clients, my reputation. Your revenge is becoming an obsession, she observes quietly. Just like his insecurity did. The words sting because they're true. I'm becoming what I hate, letting Jake's actions control my choices even now. My phone lights up with Jake's number. Instead of ignoring it, I answer. Congratulations, I say before he can speak. You've finally gotten what you wanted. I'm taking my maternity leave early. Effective immediately. His breath catches. Kiara. But here's what you don't know, Jake. I'm not retreating. I'm regrouping. And when I come back, I stroke my belly, feeling my daughter's strength. Well, you might want to keep that bottle in your desk handy. I end the call, already drafting emails in my head. Jake thinks he's won this round, but he's forgotten something crucial. I've always played the long game better than him. And I'm just getting started. Labor pains feel a lot like revenge, sharp, purposeful, and ultimately worth the agony. I grip the hospital bed rails, timing my breaths between contractions, while Rachel reads from her phone. Jake's company announced major layoffs this morning. His department was hit hardest. She pauses. Derek says he cleared out his office yesterday. Another contraction hits. I focus on the pain, letting it fuel me. Good timing. The lawsuit papers will find him at home. Kiara, my mother warns from her chair. Maybe wait until after. No. I force myself to sit up straighter. The papers go out today. I want him served while I'm bringing his daughter into the world, the daughter he pretended didn't exist when he tried to destroy me. The nurse enters, checking monitors. Blood pressure's elevated. Try to stay calm. Calm? I want to laugh. I've spent months gathering evidence, building my case, watching Jake self-destruct while he thought I was hiding. Now, as my body prepares to deliver new life, my lawyers are delivering the final blow to his career. Rachel's phone buzzes. Derek again. Says Jake's not handling the layoff well. He's threatening to come here. He can try. My mother moves to the door, as if preparing to guard it personally. Security has his photo. Another contraction rips through me, stronger this time. The nurse frowns at the monitor. Baby's showing signs of distress. We need to get your pressure down. My phone lights up, Jake's number. Before anyone can stop me, I answer. Enjoying unemployment? My voice sounds strangled, even to me. You did this. His words slur slightly. Somehow, you orchestrated all of it. The client losses, the internal investigation, everything. You did it to yourself. I grip the rail harder as pain builds again. I just made sure everyone saw who you really are. I'm coming to the hospital. You can't keep my daughter from me. Watch me. The contraction peaks, and I can't hide my gasp. Are you in labor? His voice shifts, showing the first real emotion I've heard in months. Kiara, please. Let me be there. The monitor's beeping increases. The nurse moves quickly, adjusting equipment. Baby's heart rate is dropping. We need to prep for emergency C-section. My mother takes the phone. Jake, listen carefully. If you come here, I'll have you arrested. This is what you chose when you tried to destroy my daughter's life. Live with it. She ends the call as medical staff swarm the room. Through the chaos, I hear Rachel reading a text. Jake's brother-in-law just resigned from the board. Says he can't defend his actions anymore. I smile through the pain. Perfect timing. BP still rising, someone says. We need to move now. As they wheel me towards surgery, my mother squeezes my hand. Let it go, sweetheart. Focus on your daughter. But I can't. Even as they prep me for surgery, I'm calculating next moves. The lawsuit. The evidence against Jake's brother-in-law. The board members who'll face ethics investigations. The anesthesiologist leans over. Count backward from 10. 9. I think about Jake sitting alone in our empty house, career in ruins. 8. Rachel will ensure every potential employer knows about his drinking, his harassment. 7. My daughter will never know the man who chose pride over family. 6. The monitor's frantic beeping matches my racing thoughts. 5. My mother's worried face appears above me. 4. Your revenge won't keep her safe, she whispers. 3. But it will make sure Jake can never hurt us again. 2. The ceiling blurs. 1. As consciousness fades, I realize I'm crying. Not from pain or fear, but because part of me knows my mother's right. I'm giving birth to my daughter with hatred in my heart instead of joy. The last thing I hear is the doctor's voice, pressure's still climbing. We need to. Then darkness, and a final thought, what if winning this war costs me more than I'm willing to pay? 3 weeks after Emma's birth, I stand in our old driveway, my daughter sleeping against my chest in her carrier. The house looks smaller somehow, diminished like Jake's latest settlement offer sitting unopened in my purse. The key still works. Inside, everything's exactly as I left it, except for the empty bottles littering the coffee table. Jake's car isn't here, but Derek warned me he rarely leaves now except for job interviews he's too drunk to handle. Let's see what Daddy's been up to, I whisper to Emma, moving through rooms that feel like museum exhibits of my former life. In his home office, papers cover every surface, printouts of my emails, social media posts, news articles about the company's losses. Red marker circles names, draws connections, like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream. My phone buzzes. Rachel, board meeting ended. They're reinstating your accounts. Jake's brother-in-law confessed to everything. Victory should taste sweeter than this. Emma stirs, whimpering. I bounce her gently, studying Jake's wall of obsession. That's when I spot it, a familiar manila envelope tucked under some papers. My hands shake as I pull out photographs, me at doctor's appointments. Shopping for baby clothes. Having lunch with Rachel. All dated, annotated with times and locations. He's been stalking me. Beautiful girl, isn't she? I spin around. Jake stands in the doorway, swaying slightly. His clothes hang loose, his face gaunt beneath patchy stubble. You're drunk. I step backward, shielding Emma. Had to see her. He moves closer. My daughter. The one you used to destroy me. You destroyed yourself. Did I? He gestures at his wall. Or did you orchestrate everything? The client losses, the complaints, the investigation. You turned everyone against me. You did that when you chose your pride over your family. Emma starts crying. Jake flinches at the sound. Family? He laughs bitterly. You took that too. But I've been watching, Kiara. Learning your routines. Waiting. My back hits the desk. The photos scatter across the floor like fallen leaves. You need help, Jake. I need my life back. His shout makes Emma wail louder. Everything I had, my career, my reputation, my home, gone because you couldn't handle not being in control. Handle not being in control? My voice rises despite myself. You tried to sabotage my career. You spread lies about my mental health. I loved you. He slams his hand on the desk, inches from where I'm standing. And you made me feel worthless every single day. Emma's screams reach fever pitch. I need to get out, but Jake blocks the only exit. Move. No. His eyes fix on Emma. She's mine too. You can't keep taking things from me. He reaches for the carrier. I react instinctively, shoving him hard. He stumbles, catching himself against the doorframe. Don't you dare touch her. Or what? His smile is all wrong. You'll destroy me again? Too late, Kiara. You already did that. Now we're even. Footsteps thunder up the stairs. Derek appears behind Jake, Rachel close behind. Jesus Christ, Jake. Derek grabs his arm. What are you doing? Following my wife. Like she followed me. Watched me. Ruined me. Rachel edges past them, reaching for me. Come on. We're leaving. No one's leaving. Jake tries to shake off Derek's grip. Not until. Until what? My voice sounds strange, distant. Until you scare me enough? Hurt me enough? Make me feel as pathetic as you do? Emma's cries have subsided to hiccuping sobs. I touch her head, feeling her soft hair against my fingers. You want to know the difference between us, Jake? I built things. A career. A life. A future for our daughter. You only know how to destroy. Kiara, he whispers, and for a moment I see the man I married. Then his face hardens again. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I walk past him, my legs surprisingly steady. You're not even worth revenge anymore. Outside, the sun feels too bright. Rachel guides me to her car while Derek stays with Jake, already calling someone, rehab, maybe, or the police. In the back seat, I finally let myself shake, holding Emma close as she drifts back to sleep. My perfect revenge lies in ashes, leaving only the bitter taste of Pyrrhic victory and the weight of my daughter against my heart. The restraining order sits on my desk like a loaded gun. One signature, and Jake legally becomes a stranger. My lawyer says it's necessary after the stalking incident, but my pen hovers, uncertain. Emma sleeps in her carrier beside me while I review quarterly reports. Back at work for 2 weeks, and already the rhythm feels natural. Then my office door swings open. Jake stands there, sober and sharp in a new suit. Behind him, security guards rush forward, but he's already inside. Don't call them, he says quietly. Please. 5 minutes. I should press the panic button. Instead, I wave the guards back. 5 minutes. Then I'm signing these papers. He spots the restraining order, nods like he expected it. I'm checking into rehab tomorrow. 30-day program. Good for you. I keep my voice neutral, one hand resting near Emma's carrier. I sold the house. He stays by the door, maintaining distance. Used the money to pay back what I borrowed from the company. And he pulls out an envelope. I wrote letters. To your clients, the board, everyone I contacted during my campaign. Confessing everything. Why? Because you were right. His voice cracks. I only know how to destroy things. But I want to learn how to build instead. For her. He glances at Emma. Even if I never get to be her father. You'll always be her father, Jake. That's not something I can erase. No, but you can protect her from becoming collateral damage in my self-destruction. He sets the envelope on a chair. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Or another chance. I just wanted you to know I finally understand what I did. To you. To us. Emma stirs, making tiny sleep noises. Jake's face crumples for a moment before he rebuilds his composure. Derek showed me the photos, I say. The ones you took while stalking me. I know. That's why I'm here. He pulls something else from his pocket, a memory card. Every photo, every note, everything I collected during that time. Destroy it. I don't want to be that person anymore. My phone buzzes, Rachel texting that security is ready to intervene. I ignore it. You know what the worst part was? I stand, needing to move. Not the sabotage or the lies. It was watching you choose your pride over our daughter. Over and over. I chose fear, he corrects. Fear of being overshadowed. Of being irrelevant. Of not being enough. He laughs softly. Turns out, those fears were self-fulfilling prophecies. And now? Now I'm afraid of something worse, that Emma will grow up knowing her father was a coward who tried to destroy her mother rather than face his own inadequacies. I look at the restraining order, then at Emma, then at Jake, this stranger wearing my husband's face, speaking truths instead of accusations. Your 5 minutes are up. He nods, turning to leave. Then stops. The company offered me my job back. After rehab. I turned it down. Why? Because sometimes. He meets my eyes for the first time. Sometimes you have to lose everything to understand what you should have valued in the first place. The memory card sits on my desk where he left it. Next to it, the restraining order waits for my signature. Tools of destruction and protection, revenge and redemption. Jake. He pauses at the door. When you finish rehab. If you're serious about building things. I touch Emma's cheek. She'll need a father who knows how to do that. I don't deserve. This isn't about what you deserve. It's about what she deserves. I pick up the restraining order. I'll hold on to this. As insurance. But I won't file it. Yet. He nods, understanding the weight of this small mercy. Thank you. After he leaves, I open my desk drawer, dropping the memory card inside. Evidence of who we were, preserved but not defining who we might become. Emma wakes, demanding attention. As I lift her, my revenge fantasy finally crumbles completely, replaced by something harder but more necessary, the slow, careful work of building a future from the ashes of our past. The unsigned restraining order sits in my bottom drawer like a loaded gun I never fired. Emma plays on the office floor, stacking wooden blocks while I review quarterly projections. Her dark hair falls in her eyes, Jake's eyes, as she concentrates on her tower. My phone buzzes. Derek's text reads, Jake completed the program. Asked me to tell you. I set the phone down, watching Emma knock over her creation with a delighted squeal. She's already rebuilding, placing each block with careful determination. Rachel appears in my doorway, holding a familiar manila envelope. This came for you. Hand-delivered. Inside, I find a single sheet of paper, Jake's resignation letter from his new job in Seattle. At the bottom, he's written, some distances aren't measured in miles. You okay? Rachel asks. Better than okay. I file the letter with the restraining order. I'm done measuring distances. The intercom buzzes. Miss Thompson? Your 3 o'clock is here. Send them in. I scoop Emma up, settling her on my hip. Ready to meet Mommy's new client? She babbles something that might be client or might be climb. These days, everything's a mountain to scale. The door opens. Jake stands there, clean-shaven in a charcoal suit, holding a presentation folder. Thompson Consulting, he says quietly. Independent contractor. If you'll have me. Emma reaches for him instinctively. I don't stop her. The Seattle job. I begin. Wasn't what I needed to build. He accepts Emma's weight, professional demeanor cracking as she pats his face. I had a good teacher about rebuilding things. I gesture to the visitor's chair, noting how he arranges Emma on his lap, protecting her from the edge of my desk. Some instincts run deeper than our mistakes. Why consulting? Because I finally learned what you knew all along, success isn't about power. It's about creating something sustainable. He opens his folder. I've got references. A business plan. Even some potential clients who need help restructuring there? Stop. I hold up a hand. This isn't a job interview. His face falls, but he nods. I understand. I just thought. It's a partnership negotiation. I pull out a contract draft I'd prepared weeks ago, watching his expression shift. 60-40 split. Separate accounts. Clear boundaries. You knew I'd come back. I knew you'd either rebuild or self-destruct. The choice was always yours. Emma squirms off his lap, returning to her blocks. We both watch as she starts a new tower, this one more ambitious than the last. I can't undo what I did, Jake says. No. But you can build something new. If you're ready to do the work. He studies the contract, then looks at our daughter. Some things are worth building slowly. I think about revenge, about justice, about the fine line between protecting what matters and destroying what threatens us. The unsigned restraining order whispers from its drawer, but its voice grows fainter each day. Sign it, I say, pushing the contract forward. Not because you deserve it. But because Emma deserves to see that broken things can be rebuilt. Better. Stronger. Different. As Jake reaches for the pen, Emma's tower collapses again. Instead of crying, she laughs, already gathering blocks for another attempt. Like mother, like daughter, Jake murmurs. No, I correct him, watching Emma work. Like herself. That's all she needs to be. He signs the contract, his hand steady. Outside my office, Rachel gives me a questioning look through the glass. I nod, just once. She smiles and turns away, carrying my unspoken message. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building something they can't tear down. Emma holds up a block, offering it to both of us. In her small hands, it looks less like a weapon and more like a foundation stone. Jake and I reach for it together, our fingers brushing briefly as we help our daughter start again. Not with forgiveness, that's still a distant shore. But with something more essential, the understanding that some things are worth building, even from the ashes of what we burned.